You have been lied to about what makes life feel full. They told you that happiness comes from wanting more, having more, reaching more, owning more, and proving that your life is finally enough. But if more was the answer, why do so many people still feel heavy after getting what they prayed for? Why does the heart still feel restless after the goal is reached, the money is made, the approval is received, and the next desire is already waiting at the door? The truth is, life does not become lighter because you carry more. Life becomes lighter when you finally see how much you have been carrying that never truly gave you peace. Buddhism teaches that wanting less is not about losing ambition, rejecting comfort, or walking away from the world. It is about seeing clearly. It is about understanding how craving quietly turns the mind into a beggar, always reaching for the next thing, always believing peace is somewhere else, always postponing joy until life looks perfect. But peace does not begin when every desire is satisfied. Peace begins when desire stops ruling your heart. It begins when you can look at life without needing everything to obey you. It begins when you stop chasing what only makes you more tired and start returning to what makes you whole. Tonight, as you listen to these lessons, something inside you may begin to loosen. The pressure to have more will start to feel less powerful. The fear of missing out will begin to fade. The need to impress, possess, compare, and control will slowly lose its grip. You will begin to understand that living lighter is not about having an empty life. It is about having a free mind. This is not just a teaching about wanting less. This is Buddhism showing you how to stop dragging the weight of craving through every day of your life. Are you ready? Let's begin. And now that the mind has been invited to loosen its grip, we must begin at the place where craving first hides. Because before a person can want less, they must understand what wanting is doing inside them. Most people only notice desire when it becomes loud. They notice it when they want the phone call, the money, the praise, the relationship, the new life, the answer, the comfort, the apology, the attention, or the feeling that something has finally changed. But Buddhism asks us to look deeper than the object. It asks us to look beneath the thing we say we want and ask a quieter question. What is this desire really asking for? There is a hunger beneath the hunger, and until you see it clearly, you will keep feeding the surface while the deeper place remains empty. You may think you want more money, but beneath that desire may be a hunger for safety. You may think you want someone to choose you, but beneath that longing may be a hunger to feel worthy. You may think you want everyone to admire you, but beneath that thirst may be a childlike wish to finally be seen. You may think you want a perfect future, but beneath that pressure may be fear. This is why wanting less does not begin by throwing things away. It begins by seeing clearly. It begins by turning toward desire, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Desire is often carrying a message from a wounded, frightened, or restless part of you. If you only obey it, it will keep leading you in circles. If you only fight it, it will grow louder. But if you listen to it with wisdom, it begins to reveal the truth it has been hiding. Buddhism does not say that every desire is evil. It does not tell you to become cold, lifeless, or empty of all human feeling. The teaching is gentler than that. It says, look carefully, see what craving does, see how the mind attaches, see how it suffers when life does not obey, see how it turns a simple wish into a prison. The problem is not that a desire appears. The problem begins when the mind believes, I cannot be peaceful unless this desire is fulfilled. A person can desire food when hungry, and that is natural. The body needs care. A person can desire shelter, friendship, love, purpose, and healing, and these are not wrong. But there is another kind of wanting that does not come from real need. It comes from inner lack. It whispers, if I get this, I will finally be enough. It says, if they love me, I will finally matter. It says, if I become successful, nobody can look down on me again. It says, if I control everything, nothing can hurt me. This kind of wanting does not end when it gets what it wants, because the thing was never the true hunger. Look at how the mind behaves after it gets the thing it begged for. For a moment, there is pleasure, there is relief, there is a small rush like a thirsty person touching cold water, but soon the mind adjusts. The new thing becomes normal. The excitement fades. The same emptiness returns with a different face. Then the mind says, maybe I need more, maybe I need better, maybe I chose the wrong thing, maybe the next one will finally satisfy me. This is how craving keeps renewing itself. It survives by promising that peace is one step ahead. Buddhism calls this thirst. Not ordinary thirst, but the deep inner thirst that keeps reaching. Thirst for pleasure, thirst for becoming, thirst for control, thirst for identity, thirst for life to be permanent when everything is changing. This thirst is not satisfied by giving it more to drink, because it is not really asking for what it points toward. It is asking for rest, but it does not know how to rest. It is asking for wholeness, but it keeps searching in fragments. It is asking for freedom, but it keeps grabbing chains. This is why wanting less is not a punishment. It is not life becoming smaller. It is suffering becoming smaller. It is not the death of joy. It is the death of the endless chase that steals joy. When Buddhism teaches you to want less, it is not telling you to sit in a bare room and reject every beautiful thing. It is teaching you to enjoy what is here without becoming owned by it. It is teaching you to hold life like water in open hands, not like a stone clenched in a fist. The meal is not enough because someone else is eating better. The home is not enough because someone else has a bigger one. The body is not enough because the mirror has become a judge. The relationship is not enough because fantasy keeps comparing it to a perfect story. The present moment is not enough because the mind is always leaning into tomorrow. And so life, even when it is full, begins to feel poor. But pause and look carefully. Is the problem truly the meal, the home, the body, the relationship, the present moment? Or is the problem the mind that has been trained to measure everything against an endless hunger? This is where Buddhist wisdom becomes a mirror. It does not flatter you. It does not attack you. It simply shows you what is happening. It shows you that the world may not be as lacking as craving says it is. It shows you that the heart may not be as empty as desire claims. It shows you that peace may not require as much as the restless mind has been demanding. The hunger beneath the hunger often begins with fear. Fear that you will be forgotten. Fear that you will not have enough. Fear that you will be left behind. Fear that someone else will live the life you wanted. Fear that you are not attractive enough, talented enough, young enough, important enough, or lovable enough. Desire then becomes a cover for fear. It dresses fear in ambition, romance, shopping, achievement, comparison, and control. On the outside, it may look like confidence. Inside, it is often a trembling hand reaching for proof. This is why you must be gentle with yourself. When you see your craving, do not immediately hate it. Do not say, I am weak, I am greedy, I am too attached. That only adds another layer of suffering. Instead, look at it the way a wise parent looks at a child who is crying for something they cannot name. The child may point to a toy, but what they really want is comfort. The mind may point to a desire, but what it really wants is ease. If you meet that desire with anger, it tightens. If you meet it with awareness, it begins to soften. Before awareness, desire feels like a command. It says, follow me now. It pulls the body, thoughts, emotions, attention. You feel as if you must text them, buy it, prove it, eat it, say it, check it, fix it, chase it, or defend it. But awareness creates a small space. In that space, you can breathe. You can ask, what is really happening in me? You can ask, what do I think this thing will give me? You can ask, is this a real need, or is this pain searching for a mask? That space may seem small, but it is where liberation enters. A craving that is seen clearly begins to lose its authority. It may still be present, but it is no longer the master. You may still want the message, but you do not have to collapse without it. You may still want success, but you do not have to sacrifice your peace for it. You may still want comfort, but you do not have to turn every discomfort into an emergency. You may still want to be loved, but you do not have to abandon yourself to receive attention. This is not detachment from life. This is detachment from slavery. One of the deepest mistakes people make is thinking that desire knows what will save them. Desire is loud, but it is not always wise. It can point toward relief while ignoring consequence. It can promise sweetness while hiding the bitterness that follows. It can convince you that one more purchase, one more apology, one more achievement, one more person, one more escape, one more sign, or one more victory will finally quiet the storm. But if the storm is inside the mind, outside objects can only distract you for a while. A peaceful life is not built by forcing everything outside you to become perfect. It is built by understanding the movements inside you. It is built by seeing how the mind creates hunger, then suffers under that hunger, then blames life for not feeding it fast enough. Buddhism invites you to stop being fooled by this cycle. It invites you to stop running after every desire, as if each one is a sacred instruction. You may crave entertainment because you are exhausted by your own thoughts. You may crave attention because you have not learned how to sit warmly with yourself. You may crave control because uncertainty feels like danger in your nervous system. You may crave praise because you have been living too long without self-respect. You may crave constant movement because stillness brings up feelings you have been avoiding. When you understand this, compassion replaces judgment. And this is where wanting less becomes wise, not forced. You do not want less because someone told you to be spiritual. You want less because you have finally seen how much of your wanting was not bringing you closer to peace. You begin to lose interest in the chase because you understand its trick. You begin to see that every craving comes with a hidden cost. Some cravings cost money, some cost time, some cost sleep, some cost dignity, some cost self-respect, some cost years of your life, and some cost the quiet joy that was already available before the wanting became loud. Just because a desire feels strong does not mean it is wise. Just because you miss someone deeply does not mean returning is healthy. Just because you want something urgently does not mean it belongs to your path. Just because the mind repeats a story does not make the story sacred. Buddhism teaches you to observe without immediately obeying. This observation is powerful because it breaks the spell of impulse. There is a moment in every desire where you can wake up. It is often a tiny moment, almost silent. It appears between the feeling and the action. The craving rises, the body tightens, the mind creates a story, and then there is a breath. In that breath, you can either continue the old pattern or begin a new freedom. This is why mindfulness is not just sitting quietly. Mindfulness is seeing the machinery of suffering while it is moving. It is catching the hand before it grabs the flame and asking, do I really need to burn again? But Buddhism makes a beautiful distinction between craving and wise intention. Craving says, I must have this or I cannot be happy. Wise intention says, I can move toward this with peace and I can remain whole whether it comes or not. Craving is desperate. Wise intention is steady. Craving tightens the body. Wise intention clears the path. Craving makes you betray yourself. Wise intention helps you grow without becoming a prisoner of the result. You can still work, create, love, build, study, improve, and dream. Wanting less does not mean becoming passive. It means removing the poison from wanting. It means walking toward life without dragging fear behind you. It means planting seeds without screaming at the soil. It means doing your part without making your soul depend on one outcome. It means enjoying success without making it your identity and meeting failure without treating it as your death. They do not realize that craving has turned life into a hallway with no rooms to rest in. Every door opens into another desire. Every achievement becomes a platform for the next anxiety. Every pleasure becomes something to repeat, protect, or increase. The mind says, keep going, you are almost there. But there is no there when craving is leading. There is only another horizon. Buddhism does not destroy this illusion with violence. It dissolves it with seeing. When you see clearly that a desire is not giving you what it promised, your grip naturally loosens. You do not have to force yourself to release a burning coal once you realize it is burning you. The release happens because wisdom has entered. The same is true with craving. Once you see the pain inside the chase, you no longer admire the chase the same way. You may still feel its pull, but a deeper intelligence has awakened. Ask yourself gently what your strongest desires have been teaching you, not what they promised you, but what they revealed. Did they reveal a fear of being alone? Did they reveal a need to prove your worth? Did they reveal a wound around rejection? Did they reveal how easily your peace can be rented out to someone else's attention? Did they reveal how quickly your mind leaves the present moment when it believes happiness is missing? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to bring you home. Because the hunger beneath the hunger is often the longing to come home to yourself. You may have been searching for peace in people, objects, praise, beauty, status, and future plans, when what you truly wanted was to stop feeling divided inside. You wanted to feel safe in your own being. You wanted to stop running. You wanted to feel that this moment, this breath, this ordinary life, this imperfect self, is not an enemy to escape. That is why craving is so painful. It teaches you that home is elsewhere. Buddhist practice teaches the opposite. It says, home is not found by feeding every hunger. Home is found by understanding hunger so deeply that it no longer controls you. Home is found in the breath you keep ignoring, in the body you keep criticizing, in the simple meal you eat while thinking of tomorrow, in the quiet room you keep filling with noise, in the present moment you keep abandoning for a future that never stops moving. Living lighter begins when you stop leaving yourself to chase what cannot hold you. There is a kind of peace that arrives when you finally admit this desire is not really about this thing. That admission is not small. It can change the direction of a life. A person who understands that they are not craving attention but belonging will stop begging the wrong people to notice them. A person who understands that they are not craving luxury but safety will stop destroying their peace to impress others. A person who understands that they are not craving control but trust will begin healing their fear of uncertainty. A person who understands that they are not craving revenge but validation will stop drinking poison to prove they were wounded. This is the deep work. It is not glamorous. It may not impress anyone. But it frees you from living like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Every desire you understand becomes one less chain around your mind. Every craving you observe becomes one more doorway into wisdom. Every moment you pause before obeying hunger becomes proof that you are not trapped by the old self. Wanting less begins with seeing more clearly, seeing the promise behind the craving, seeing the fear beneath the promise, seeing the wound beneath the fear, seeing the innocent longing beneath the wound. At the deepest level, many desires are distorted prayers. They are the soul asking for peace in a language it has not yet learned how to speak. Buddhism gives that soul a new language. It teaches it to say, I can be with this feeling without becoming it. I can want without clinging. I can enjoy without attaching. I can lose without becoming empty. I can live without being ruled by more. This is what makes a lighter life possible. But because you become wiser than the hunger, you begin to recognize when wanting is useful and when it is using you. You begin to feel the difference between a clean wish and a desperate grip. You begin to know when the heart is moving from love and when it is moving from lack. You buy less because you need less proof. You explain less because you need less approval. You chase less because you trust your path more. You compare less because you finally understand that another person's life cannot measure the worth of yours. You cling less because you see that what is meant to nourish you should not require you to abandon your peace. You fear silence less because silence becomes a place where truth can speak. This is the first doorway into wanting less and living lighter. It is the doorway of seeing. Before peace comes, the courage to ask, what is my desire really asking for? When you can sit with that question without running, without pretending, without feeding surface hunger, quiet wisdom begins. The craving that once commanded you becomes a teacher. The emptiness that once frightened you becomes a message. The wanting that once exhausted you becomes a path into wisdom. And from that wisdom, life starts to feel different. Not because you have everything, but because everything no longer has you. And once you begin to see that everything no longer has to possess you, another truth appears. Desire does not always arrive looking greedy. Sometimes it comes dressed as discipline. Sometimes it sounds responsible, mature, and impressive. Sometimes it hides inside the sentence, I am only trying to become better. And this is where the path becomes more subtle, because the mind can turn even growth into another form of craving. There is a kind of ambition that wakes you up, and there is a kind of ambition that slowly drains your spirit. One helps you grow with peace. The other keeps you running with fear. One comes from wisdom. The other comes from attachment, wearing clean clothes. And if you do not learn the difference, you may spend your whole life improving on the outside while becoming restless on the inside. This is where many people get trapped without knowing it. They think attachment only means clinging to a person, a house, a title, a memory, or a pleasure. But attachment can also hide inside goals. It can hide inside success. It can hide inside self-improvement. It can hide inside the need to become smarter, richer, stronger, more admired, more spiritual, more productive, more attractive, more respected, more untouchable, more in control. It can even hide inside the desire to become peaceful. And that is why Buddhism does not only ask what you are chasing, it asks how you are chasing it. It asks what happens to your mind while you chase it. It asks whether your effort is making you more awake or more anxious. It asks whether your ambition is helping you live more fully or whether it is quietly turning the present moment into something you are always trying to escape. Growth is beautiful when it comes from clarity. It is painful when it comes from lack. A person can work hard because they love what they are building, because they want to serve, because they want to use their gifts, because they want to support their family, because they want to become more skillful in life. There is nothing wrong with that. Buddhism is not against effort. The Buddha himself taught right effort, not lazy surrender. But right effort has a different taste. It is steady. It is clean. It does not whip the heart like a tired animal. It does not say, you are nothing until you arrive. Restless ambition says something else. It says, you are not enough yet. Keep going. Do more. Become more. Achieve more. Fix yourself more. prove more, hurry more. It may sound like motivation, but underneath it is rejection. You are not moving because life is calling you. You are running because you cannot stand where you are. That is not freedom. That is suffering with a calendar, a vision board, and a beautiful name. Many people call it hunger, drive, discipline, high standards, or the desire to win. But when you look carefully, you may find that much of it is fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being judged, fear of being forgotten, fear of being dependent, fear of being behind, fear of becoming the version of yourself someone once looked down on, fear of silence, fear of stillness, fear of waking up one day and feeling that your life did not become impressive enough. So the person works, pushes, plans, compares, checks, improves, studies, trains, saves, builds, and performs. On the outside, everyone may admire them. They may say, "You are so focused, you are so determined, you are going places." But inside, the person may not feel strong. They may feel hunted. They may feel as if rest is dangerous. They may feel as if one slow day means they are falling behind. They may feel guilty when nothing is being produced. They may feel empty after every achievement because the mind has already moved the finish line. This is how attachment hides inside normal ambition. It makes the goal seem like the problem, but the real problem is the identity attached to the goal. You do not just want to succeed. You need success to tell you who you are. You do not just want to grow. You need growth to protect you from shame. You do not just want to improve your life. You need improvement to escape the feeling that your current life is not worthy of tenderness. When ambition is tied to identity, every delay feels personal. Every failure feels like proof. Every criticism feels like danger. Every person ahead of you feels like a threat. Every quiet season feels like punishment. You cannot simply be a human being moving through life. You become a project under constant inspection, and the inspector is never satisfied. Buddhism gently points to this and says, "Look, see how becoming can become another thirst. There is a thirst for pleasure, yes, but there is also a thirst for becoming. The mind says, I must become someone else before I can be at peace. It creates a future self and kneels before it like a god. It says, when I become that person, then I will relax. When I reach that level, then I will breathe. When people respect me, then I will stop feeling small. When my life looks successful, then I will finally be safe." But the strange thing is, when that future arrives, the mind often refuses to rest there. It creates another future. It says, not yet, more is needed. This is the trap. A goal can be reached, but attachment cannot be satisfied. Attachment does not want one achievement. It wants the feeling of permanent security that no achievement can give. It wants life to say, now nobody can hurt you. Now nobody can reject you. Now you will never lose. Now you will never doubt yourself again. But life cannot promise that. So ambition becomes endless. This does not mean you should stop growing. It means you must stop using growth as a way to punish yourself. There is a difference between watering a plant and yelling at it to become a tree by morning. There is a difference between training the body with respect and attacking the body with shame. There is a difference between learning because wisdom excites you and learning because you feel worthless without achievement. There is a difference between building a better life and trying to outrun the ache of being human. The world loves restless ambition because restless people are easy to sell to. If you feel incomplete, someone can sell you completion. If you feel behind, someone can sell you speed. If you feel unattractive, someone can sell you worth in a bottle, a course, a body, a status, or a lifestyle. If you feel like your life is too simple, someone can make simplicity look like failure. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to measure your peace by things that never had the power to give peace. The mind starts to believe that a good life must always be expanding. More income, more influence, more possessions, more recognition, more skills, more followers, more praise, more options, more proof, more plans. But Buddhism asks a question that cuts through the noise. Are you expanding in wisdom or only expanding your hunger? Because not all expansion is freedom. A person can have more money and more anxiety, more choices and more confusion, more attention and more loneliness, more success and more fear of losing it, more comfort and less gratitude, more achievement and less presence, more identity and less truth, more applause and less silence, more movement and less home inside themselves. This is the part people do not like to hear because it interrupts the dream. It says you can climb the mountain and still carry the same restless mind to the top. You can change your clothes, your job, your city, your circle, your habits, and your bank account. But if the mind is still ruled by attachment, it will turn every new place into another place of wanting. The scenery changes, but the thirst remains. That is why Buddhist wisdom begins inside. It does not ask you to abandon ambition. It asks you to purify it. It asks you to remove the desperation from your effort. It asks you to work without worshipping the result. It asks you to grow without hating the stage you are in. It asks you to move forward without turning this moment into an enemy. It asks you to become better without believing you are nothing now. This is a very deep freedom, to improve without self-rejection, to strive without anxiety, to work without clinging, to dream without losing your peace, to build without becoming owned by what you build, to rise without looking down on who you used to be, to succeed without needing success to prove your soul has value. But most people do not live this way. They are constantly negotiating with their own worth. They say, I will respect myself when I achieve this. I will rest when I finish that. I will enjoy life when I reach this level. I will feel proud when people finally notice me. Their worth is always waiting at the end of a task. Their peace is always delayed until the next milestone. Their joy is always postponed until life gives them permission. And life keeps moving. The days become weeks. The weeks become years. They keep promising themselves they will live later. Later, when the business grows. Later, when the money is enough. Later, when the body looks better. Later, when the house is finished. Later, when the family approves. Later, when the pain is gone. Later, when the future finally feels safe. But later is a hungry word. It keeps eating the present. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is not a waiting room for a better life. It is the only place life can actually be touched. If your ambition keeps stealing you from this moment, then even success becomes a thief. If your goals keep making you blind to the breath, the meal, the sunlight, the friend, the ordinary kindness, the body that still carries you, the small peace available now, then ambition has stopped serving life. It has become a veil over life. This is how growth becomes restlessness. At first, you simply want to improve. Then improvement becomes a habit. Then the habit becomes identity. Then identity becomes pressure. Then pressure becomes fear. Then fear becomes restlessness. And soon, you no longer know how to be still without feeling guilty. You no longer know how to enjoy without planning the next move. You no longer know how to receive the present without asking what it can become. A restless person can turn even meditation into a competition. They sit down, but they are not really sitting. They are trying to become the kind of person who meditates well. They judge their mind. They compare their progress. They wonder if they are becoming spiritual enough. They turn the path of release into another thing to achieve. And Buddhism smiles gently at this because it knows the ego can wear monk's robes too. The ego does not disappear just because the goal becomes noble. It can attach to success, but it can also attach to goodness. It can attach to wealth, but it can also attach to simplicity. It can attach to beauty, but it can also attach to being seen as humble. It can attach to ambition, but it can also attach to the idea of being above ambition. This is why awareness must be honest. The question is not, does my goal look spiritual? The question is, what is happening to my heart as I pursue it? If your heart becomes hard, you must look again. If your peace disappears, you must look again. If you cannot celebrate others, you must look again. If you only feel valuable when you are winning, you must look again. If your ambition makes you cruel to your body, impatient with your loved ones, blind to beauty, and afraid of rest, you must look again. The path is not asking you to quit life. It is asking you to stop losing yourself inside it. Right ambition feels different. It has energy, but not violence. It has direction, but not desperation. It has discipline, but not self-hatred. It can work hard, but it can also rest without shame. It can receive praise without becoming addicted to it. It can face criticism without falling apart. It can meet failure and still remain human. It can move toward the future while honoring the present. It does not say, I must become worthy. It says, because life is precious, I will use it well. This kind of ambition is lighter because it is not trying to repair a broken identity. It is an offering, not a performance. The work becomes a practice. The goal becomes a direction, not a prison. The effort becomes a form of respect for life, not a desperate bargain for self-worth. You begin to do what matters without turning the result into your master. Buddhism often speaks of the middle way. This wisdom is not only about avoiding extreme pleasure and extreme denial. It also applies to ambition. One extreme says, chase everything, become everything, never stop. Another extreme says, want nothing, do nothing, care about nothing. But the middle way is wiser. It says, act with care, but do not cling. Grow with sincerity, but do not hate yourself. Build what is good, but remember that all things change. Use effort, but do not let effort become violence against the soul. A person living the middle way can still have goals, but their goals do not swallow their humanity. They can work for financial stability without worshipping money. They can care for the body without turning it into an idol. They can build a career without sacrificing every quiet part of life. They can love excellence without becoming addicted to perfection. They can improve without becoming allergic to being ordinary. And that word, ordinary, carries more fear than people admit. Many people are not chasing greatness because greatness truly calls them. They are running from the terror of being ordinary. They believe ordinary means invisible. They believe ordinary means forgotten. They believe ordinary means wasted. But Buddhism teaches that life's depth is not only found in what the world claps for, it is also found in washing a cup with full attention, in speaking kindly when nobody is watching, in breathing without needing the moment to become famous, in sitting beneath a quiet sky and not demanding anything from it. Restless ambition cannot understand this. It thinks peace is laziness. It thinks contentment is weakness. It thinks slowing down means falling behind. It thinks simplicity means failure. It thinks if you are not constantly becoming more, you are becoming nothing. But this is not wisdom. This is fear pretending to be discipline. Contentment does not mean refusing growth. It means your soul is no longer starving while you grow. It means you can say, this moment is enough to be lived, even if it is not the final form of my life. It means you do not have to delay gratitude until everything is perfect. It means you can still move forward, but not because the present is worthless. You move forward because movement is part of life. When attachment hides inside ambition, you start needing the future to rescue you. When ambition becomes clean, the future becomes a place you help create, not a place you beg to save you. This is a major difference. One comes from panic, the other comes from presence. One makes you chase, the other makes you participate. One says, "I am empty until I arrive." The other says, "I am whole enough to walk." This is why Buddhist practice brings you back again and again to the breath. Not because breathing is dramatic, not because it will impress anyone, but because the breath is honest. It does not care about your title. It does not care how much money you have. It does not care who praised you today. It does not ask whether your future is impressive. It simply brings you back to being alive. And sometimes being alive without needing to become something more for one quiet moment is the medicine restless ambition fears the most. The breath interrupts the story of "not yet." It says, "Here." The body says, "Here." The sounds around you say, "Here." The present says, "Here." But the restless mind says, "There, later, more, next, hurry." To live lighter, you must learn to hear the difference. You must learn when ambition is guiding you and when craving is chasing you from behind. One simple way to see this is to notice what happens when life delays your goal. If delay teaches patience, humility, creativity, and trust, your ambition may be clean. But if delay destroys your peace, makes you hate yourself, makes you envy others, makes you feel worthless, or makes you believe life has rejected you, then attachment has entered. The goal has become more than a goal. It has become the place where you hid your identity. Another way to see it is to notice what happens when someone else succeeds. If their success inspires you, your ambition may be healthy. If their success wounds you, threatens you, or makes your own path feel smaller, then your ambition is mixed with comparison. Comparison is attachment looking sideways. It cannot simply walk its road. It keeps checking other roads to decide whether its own life has value. Comparison turns growth into suffering because it makes your progress invisible. You could be improving, healing, learning, and becoming stronger. But the moment you compare yourself to someone ahead of you, your own growth feels like failure. This is one of the cruel tricks of restless ambition. It steals the joy of progress by measuring it against another person's timing. But Buddhism reminds you that comparison is a distortion. It pulls you out of direct experience and traps you inside mental judgment. A tree does not suffer because another tree is taller. A river does not feel ashamed because another river is wider. A flower does not apologize for blooming in its season. But the human mind, when ruled by attachment, turns life into a ranking system. It forgets that every path has causes and conditions that cannot be seen from the outside. You see someone's result, not their karma, not their hidden struggles, not the price they paid, not the emptiness they may carry, not the lessons waiting for them. To want less is partly to stop wanting someone else's life as proof that yours is not enough. It is to return to your own causes, your own conditions, your own duties, your own breath, your own season. This does not make you small. It makes you honest. And honesty is lighter than comparison. Restless ambition also creates a hidden violence toward time. You begin to treat time as something to conquer, squeeze, and dominate. Every hour must produce. Every break must be justified. Every pause must be earned. Even sleep becomes another tool for performance. But Buddhist wisdom invites a softer relationship with time. It reminds you that life is not only a race toward outcomes, it is also a field of awareness. If you pass through every moment only asking what it can give you later, you may arrive at later with a heart that has forgotten how to receive. This is why some people finally get what they wanted and cannot enjoy it. Their nervous system has been trained for pursuit, not presence. They know how to chase, but not how to arrive. They know how to sacrifice, but not how to savor. They know how to push, but not how to be still. So when success comes, they feel strange. The silence after the chase feels empty. Without a new target, they do not know who they are. This is not because they failed, it is because attachment turned their whole life into motion without rest. Buddhism teaches that true growth includes the ability to stop, to breathe, to appreciate, to know enough when enough is enough, to celebrate without immediately asking what comes next, to let a simple day be complete, to let a small success be sweet, to let the body rest before it breaks, to let the heart feel full without needing an audience. This is not easy in a world that rewards noise. The world will often praise your exhaustion before it respects your peace. It will call you serious when you are overworked. It will call you ambitious when you are anxious. It will call you disciplined when you are disconnected from yourself. It will call you successful even if your inner life is collapsing. But Buddhism is not interested in appearances. It cares about suffering and the end of suffering. So it asks, what is this costing your mind? That question can save a life. What is this costing your mind? What is this goal costing your kindness? What is this image costing your sleep? What is this success costing your family? What is this ambition costing your honesty? What is this chase costing your ability to sit quietly and feel okay? What is this version of becoming costing the person you already are? Sometimes the answer is uncomfortable. Sometimes you realize that what you called growth was actually escape. You were not becoming better. You were trying to become someone nobody could wound. You were not building a future. You were trying to outrun an old shame. You were not chasing purpose. You were chasing proof. You were not pursuing excellence. You were begging the world to finally say, you are enough. And here is the painful truth. The world can say it, and you may still not believe it. People can clap, and you may still feel empty. Money can arrive, and fear may still remain. The body can change, and the inner critic may still find another flaw. The title can come, and insecurity may still ask for more. This is why attachment cannot be healed only by achievement. The wound beneath it must be seen. When that wound is seen, ambition changes. It becomes quieter, cleaner, more rooted. You no longer need to turn every dream into a battlefield. You no longer need to prove your worth to people who may not even understand your path. You no longer need to punish yourself into progress. You no longer need to carry the heavy belief that peace must be earned by becoming extraordinary. You begin to grow like nature grows, patiently, honestly, without hatred. The sun does not scream at the morning to arrive. The seed does not curse itself for not being fruit yet. The moon does not compete with the stars. Everything unfolds according to causes, conditions, timing, and care. Human beings suffer deeply because they forget they are also part of this unfolding. They try to force a season that has not ripened. They call themselves failures when they are still roots beneath the soil. The Buddhist path teaches patience not as weakness, but as intelligence. Patience sees that forcing is not the same as growing. It understands that some things need time, repetition, humility, and quiet effort. Patience does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what is needed without the fever of attachment. It means trusting the process without demanding that life obey your preferred schedule. This is how ambition becomes peaceful. You still show up, you still practice, you still learn, you still work, you still take responsibility. But your heart is not clenched around the result. Your self-worth is not hanging from the outcome like a thin thread. Your mind is not screaming at life to hurry. You are moving, but you are not being dragged. To live this way, you must keep asking yourself what kind of energy is carrying your effort. Is it love or fear? Is it service or vanity? Is it wisdom or comparison? Is it devotion or desperation? Is it growth or self-punishment? These questions are not meant to make you doubt every move. They are meant to bring awareness into the places where attachment hides. Because attachment loves respectable disguises. It knows you may reject obvious greed, so it enters through noble doors. It says, "I just want to be the best." It says, "I just want to make everyone proud." It says, "I just want to secure my future." It says, "I just want to improve myself." These things may be sincere, but they become suffering when they are fueled by the belief that you are not allowed to be at peace until they are complete. You are allowed to grow and be peaceful now. You are allowed to have unfinished goals and still breathe. You are allowed to be a work in progress without treating yourself like a mistake. You are allowed to have dreams without handing them the keys to your happiness. You are allowed to build a better life without despising the life that is here. This is the lighter way. It is not lazy. It is not careless. It is not empty. It is deeply awake. It understands that life becomes heavy when everything becomes a condition for peace. I will be peaceful if. I will be happy when. I will love myself after. I will rest once. These conditions become chains. Wanting less means cutting some of these chains, not by killing desire, but by refusing to make every desire your master. The more you practice this, the more you notice a quiet shift. Your goals remain, but they stop shouting. Your effort remains, but it stops burning you. Your dreams remain, but they stop insulting your present. You can want something and still be grateful. You can work towards something and still be alive today. You can become more without being ruled by the fear that you are less. And this is when growth becomes sacred again, not because it makes you superior, but because it becomes an expression of life moving through you. You improve because you care. You learn because wonder is alive. You work because your energy can serve something meaningful. You build because creation is natural. You discipline yourself because your life is precious, not because your current self is shameful. When attachment leaves ambition, rest becomes possible. Joy becomes possible. Deep focus becomes possible. Genuine discipline becomes possible. Even failure becomes useful, because failure is no longer a verdict on your worth. It becomes information. It becomes correction. It becomes a teacher. It becomes part of the path, not proof that you should hate yourself. This is one of the most compassionate things Buddhism teaches. You can participate fully in life without clinging to life's outcomes. You can care without being consumed. You can act without attaching your identity to the fruit of action. You can hold a direction without turning it into a prison. You can walk forward with open hands. And open hands are powerful. They can work, give, receive, create, and release. A clenched fist can only hold tightly, and even what it holds becomes painful after a while. Many people live with clenched minds. They grip the future. They grip the image. They grip the plan. They grip the identity. They grip the result. Then they wonder why they are tired. They are not tired only because life is demanding. They are tired because clinging consumes energy. Living lighter means noticing where the fist has formed. Around success, around approval, around a timeline, around the need to be special, around the fear of being behind, around the belief that you must constantly earn your place in the world. Once you see the fist, you can begin to open it, slowly, kindly, breath by breath. You do not have to abandon your goals to be free. You have to abandon the belief that your goals are the source of your worth. You do not have to stop improving. You have to stop turning improvement into a weapon against yourself. You do not have to reject success. You have to stop asking success to heal what only awareness can heal. And when you understand this, ambition becomes lighter. It no longer feels like a fire chasing you through the night. It becomes a lamp in your hand. It shows the next step, but it does not burn down your home. It helps you move, but it does not steal your breath. It gives direction, but it does not demand your soul. This is how attachment hides inside normal ambition, and this is how wisdom reveals it. Not by saying ambition is bad, but by asking whether your ambition is making you free or restless. Not by telling you to want nothing, but by teaching you to want with open eyes. Not by shrinking your life, but by removing the suffering that made your life feel like an endless race. So as you continue on this path of wanting less and living lighter, do not only watch the obvious cravings, watch the respectable ones too. Watch the desires people praise. Watch the goals that make you feel guilty for resting. Watch the dreams that secretly depend on self-rejection. Watch the ambition that cannot be patient, cannot be grateful, cannot be kind, cannot be still. Then return to the breath. Return to the present. Return to the quiet truth that you are not here only to become impressive. You are here to awaken. You are here to live with wisdom. You are here to grow without losing your soul in the growing. And when ambition becomes free from attachment, something beautiful happens. You still walk forward, but the road no longer feels like punishment. You still build, but the building no longer buries you. You still dream, but the dream no longer steals today. You still rise, but you no longer rise against yourself. That is when growth becomes peace in motion. That is when wanting less does not make life smaller. It makes the heart spacious enough to live. And once ambition becomes peace in motion, another deeper truth is waiting at the door. Because even when you have learned to loosen your grip around goals, success, identity, and the future, desire will still appear. It will still rise in the body. It will still whisper through the mind. It will still pull your attention toward comfort, pleasure, love, security, recognition, food, rest, beauty, achievement, and escape. The Buddhist path does not pretend you can become a stone with no longing. It teaches something far more powerful. It teaches you how to meet desire without becoming its servant. This is where many people misunderstand Buddhism. They think the path is about killing desire, becoming cold, rejecting joy, and walking through life as if nothing matters. But that is not freedom. That is another prison, just painted in spiritual colors. The point is not to hate desire. The point is to stop being owned by it. Because desire itself is not always the enemy. The real suffering begins when desire becomes your master. You can want food without being ruled by greed. You can want love without losing your dignity. You can want success without selling your peace. You can want comfort without becoming weak in the face of discomfort. You can want beauty without turning your life into comparison. You can want progress without despising where you are. The problem is not that a wish appears. The problem begins when the mind kneels before it and says, "Without this, I cannot be okay." That one sentence is where bondage begins. When desire owns you, your peace is no longer in your hands. It is placed inside the thing you want. If they reply, you feel alive. If they stay silent, you collapse. If money comes, you feel safe. If money delays, fear takes over. If someone praises you, you feel worthy. If they ignore you, you begin to question your value. If life follows your plan, you feel blessed. If life changes direction, you feel punished. This is not living. This is being dragged. Buddhism does not ask you to pretend that you do not want. It asks you to look at wanting so clearly that it loses the power to blind you. It asks you to notice what happens the moment desire enters the mind. Does your body tighten? Does your breath become shallow? Does your thinking become rushed? Do you begin to bargain with yourself? Do you start creating stories about why you must have this thing now? Do you forget everything else that matters because one craving has become loud? This seeing is the beginning of freedom. Most people do not see desire. They become desire. They do not say, "A craving is arising." They say, "I need this." They do not say, "My mind is reaching for comfort." They say, "I cannot survive without it." They do not say, "A wish is passing through me." They say, "This is who I am." And once desire becomes identity, it becomes very difficult to question it. But Buddhism teaches you to separate the watcher from the wanting. It teaches you to create a space between the feeling and the action. In that space, something sacred happens. You discover that you can feel desire without obeying it. You can notice longing without chasing it. You can allow discomfort without immediately trying to escape. You can let a wish rise and fall like a wave without jumping into the sea every time it moves. That may sound simple, but it is one of the greatest forms of inner strength. A person who is owned by desire has no true freedom, even if they have everything. They may have money, beauty, attention, pleasure, options, and comfort, yet still be controlled from the inside. They cannot rest because desire keeps changing its face. Today, it asks for one thing. Tomorrow, it asks for another. The next day, it returns with a new name, a new promise, a new urgency. And each time it says, "Follow me, this one will finally satisfy you." But how many times has desire made that promise and failed to keep it? How many things did you once believe would finally make you peaceful? How many people did you think would finally complete you? How many goals did you reach, only to discover that the mind was already reaching for something else? How many comforts gave pleasure for a moment, then left behind the same hunger? This is why Buddhist wisdom is so honest. It does not condemn pleasure. It simply asks you to study it carefully. Pleasure comes, pleasure goes. Praise comes, praise goes. Attraction comes, attraction goes. Money comes, money goes. Youth comes, youth goes. Excitement comes, excitement goes. The mind suffers when it demands that passing things become permanent homes. It takes what was meant to be experienced and tries to turn it into an identity, a security, a guarantee. But nothing that changes can become the final foundation of your peace. This is not a depressing truth. It is a freeing one. Because if peace cannot be safely placed inside changing things, then you can stop begging changing things to save you. You can enjoy them when they come, release them when they go, and remain connected to something deeper than their arrival or absence. This is what it means to stop being owned by desire. It does not mean you never enjoy a good meal. It means the meal does not become your escape from every pain. It does not mean you never love someone. It means love does not become self-abandonment. It does not mean you never work toward success. It means success does not become the judge of your soul. It does not mean you never appreciate beauty. It means beauty does not become a chain around your self-worth. Buddhism teaches a cleaner relationship with desire. A desire can visit, but it does not have to rule. It can speak, but it does not have to command. It can point toward something useful, but it does not have to drag your whole life behind it. This is why mindfulness matters so deeply. Without mindfulness, desire moves in darkness. It becomes automatic. You feel lonely, so you reach for distraction. You feel anxious, so you seek control. You feel unseen, so you chase attention. You feel bored, so you search for pleasure. You feel insecure, so you compare. You feel uncomfortable, so you escape. The pattern repeats until it feels like personality. But it is not your true self. It is conditioning. Mindfulness lights the room. Suddenly, you see the pattern while it is happening. You notice the loneliness before you run from it. You notice the anxiety before you obey it. You notice the craving before you feed it. You notice the story before you believe it. You notice the body before it acts. And once you notice, you are no longer completely trapped. The first moment of seeing may not stop the desire immediately. That is okay. Buddhism is not asking you to become perfect in one breath. It is asking you to become awake. Each time you see desire clearly, even for a second, its grip weakens. Each time you pause before obeying, the old chain cracks. Each time you choose wisdom over impulse, the mind learns a new path. You are not killing desire. You are training your relationship with it. Think of desire like fire. Fire can cook food, warm a home, and bring light. But if it is not understood, it can burn everything down. Desire also has energy. It can move you toward love, creativity, learning, service, discipline, healing, and growth. But when it is mixed with attachment, ignorance, and desperation, it burns the mind. It turns simple wishes into suffering. It turns healthy effort into obsession. It turns love into possession. It turns comfort into addiction. It turns ambition into restlessness. So Buddhism does not say destroy the fire. It says understand the fire, respect it, do not let it burn down the house of your mind. This is why the path is not lifeless. A truly wise person is not someone who feels nothing. A truly wise person feels deeply, but does not drown in every feeling. They can enjoy without clinging. They can grieve without being destroyed. They can love without owning. They can want without being enslaved. They can lose without becoming empty. They can gain without becoming arrogant. They can act without turning every outcome into a measure of worth. That is not numbness. That is maturity. There is a big difference between freedom from desire and fear of desire. Some people try to be spiritual by suppressing everything. They push down their longings. They deny their needs. They pretend they are above human feelings. But whatever is pushed down does not disappear. It hides. It returns through bitterness, judgment, secret craving, emotional coldness, or hidden shame. Suppression is not wisdom. It is fear wearing discipline. The Buddhist path is more honest than suppression. It says, look directly. If envy is there, see envy. If longing is there, see longing. If lust is there, see lust. If greed is there, see greed. If hunger for praise is there, see it. If the need for control is there, see it. Do not dress it up. Do not push it away. Do not make it your identity. Just see it clearly. Clear seeing is powerful because what is seen with wisdom cannot control you in the same unconscious way. When you stop hiding from your desires, you begin to understand their roots. Some desires come from the body, some come from fear, some come from memory, some come from comparison, some come from wounds, some come from habit, some come from loneliness, some come from the culture around you. Some were planted in you by people who benefited from your insecurity. Not every desire is truly yours. Some are inherited, some are advertised, some are copied, some are reactions to pain. This is why you must question desire before you worship it. Ask yourself, where did this wanting come from? Did it come from wisdom or insecurity? Did it come from love or fear? Did it come from the body's real need or the mind's restless story? Did it come from your deepest values or from watching someone else's life? Did it come from clarity or from emptiness? Did it come from peace or from panic? These questions do not make life smaller, they make it more honest. A person who never questions desire can be led anywhere. They can be sold things they do not need, pulled into relationships that weaken them, trapped in lifestyles that exhaust them, pushed into goals that do not belong to their soul, controlled by praise, destroyed by rejection, tempted by every shiny thing, frightened by every delay, offended by every discomfort. But a person who understands desire becomes difficult to control. They do not follow every urge. They do not buy every promise. They do not chase every attraction. They do not mistake excitement for alignment. They do not confuse attention with love. They do not confuse luxury with peace. They do not confuse speed with progress. They do not confuse being wanted with being valued. This is a lighter way to live. When desire owns you, life becomes heavy because every want feels urgent. The mind is never allowed to settle. It keeps checking, reaching, comparing, planning, fearing, and craving. But when desire loses ownership, life becomes spacious. You can still want, but the wanting has room around it. It does not choke you. It does not blind you. It does not turn every delay into suffering. You begin to say, "I would like this, but I do not need it to be whole." That sentence is freedom. I would like love, but I will not abandon myself for it. I would like success, but I will not sacrifice my sanity to look impressive. I would like comfort, but I will not become helpless without it. I would like approval, but I will not betray truth to receive it. I would like beauty, but I will not hate my life because it does not look like someone else's. I would like certainty, but I will not refuse to live until life gives me guarantees. This is not weakness. This is inner authority. The world often teaches you that freedom means getting whatever you want. Buddhism teaches something deeper. Freedom means not being controlled by what you want. Anyone can obey desire. It takes no wisdom to run wherever craving points, but to pause, to breathe, to observe, to choose, to remain steady in the middle of wanting. That is real strength. This strength grows slowly. It begins in small moments. You want to react, but you breathe first. You want to buy, but you ask whether it is needed. You want to chase, but you return to your dignity. You want to prove, but you remain silent. You want to compare, but you come back to your own path. You want to escape discomfort, but you sit with it long enough to hear what it is teaching. These small moments may not look dramatic, but they rebuild the mind. Every time you do not obey a craving blindly, you teach yourself that desire is not a dictator. Every time you allow a feeling to pass without feeding it, you learn that you are larger than the feeling. Every time you choose awareness over impulse, you recover a piece of your freedom. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive. It becomes less desperate. It becomes less easy to disturb. This is why Buddhist practice can feel quiet from the outside, but revolutionary on the inside. No one may see the moment you choose not to send that desperate message. No one may applaud when you walk away from a temptation that once owned you. No one may celebrate the evening you sit with sadness instead of numbing it. No one may know how much strength it took to let a desire rise and fall without turning it into action. But your mind knows, your heart knows, your future knows. And slowly, you begin to trust yourself. This trust is important because many people are afraid of their own desires. They believe that if wanting appears, they must either obey it or fight it. But there is a third way. You can hold desire in awareness. You can say, "I see you. I understand you are here, but you do not decide my life." This is not rejection. It is leadership. You become the leader of your inner world. A leader listens, but does not obey every voice. A leader understands needs, but does not surrender to chaos. A leader can be compassionate without being weak. This is how you must relate to your desires. Some desires need care, some need patience, some need discipline, some need investigation, some need to be released, some need to be transformed. The desire for attention may become the practice of self-respect. The desire for revenge may become the practice of boundaries. The desire for luxury may become the practice of gratitude. The desire for control may become the practice of trust. The desire for constant pleasure may become the practice of being present with discomfort. The desire to be admired may become the practice of living truthfully when nobody claps. This is how desire becomes a teacher instead of a prison. Buddhism does not waste human longing. It studies it. It uses it as a doorway. When a desire appears, it reveals where the mind is attached. It reveals where fear still lives. It reveals what you believe is missing. It reveals what you have made into a condition for peace. If you are willing to look, every craving becomes a lesson in self-knowledge. The danger is not desire appearing, the danger is sleeping through it. Because when you are asleep, desire can shape your entire life without your permission. You may marry from loneliness, work from shame, spend from emptiness, speak from insecurity, stay from fear, leave from impulse, chase from comparison, quit from discomfort, return from attachment, and later you may wonder why peace is still far away. But when you are awake, you begin to choose differently. You do not have to build a life around every craving. You do not have to follow every emotional storm. You do not have to turn temporary hunger into permanent decisions. You do not have to confuse intensity with truth. Some desires are strong because they are familiar, not because they are wise. Some urges feel powerful because they have been practiced for years, not because they deserve obedience. This is a major awakening. The mind often mistakes familiarity for destiny. If you have always chased approval, approval will feel necessary. If you have always used pleasure to escape sadness, pleasure will feel like survival. If you have always needed control to feel safe, uncertainty will feel like danger. If you have always tied worth to achievement, rest will feel like failure. But these are learned patterns, not absolute truths. What was learned can be understood. What is understood can be softened. What is softened can be released. That is why the Buddhist path is patient. It knows you cannot force freedom by hating your mind. It knows you cannot heal craving by creating more inner violence. It knows that desire has deep roots in human pain, fear, habit, and ignorance. So the path keeps bringing you back to awareness, compassion, discipline, and clear seeing, again and again, breath by breath, choice by choice, day by day. There will be times when desire still wins. You may still react. You may still cling. You may still chase something that does not bring peace. You may still know better and choose the old path. But even then, Buddhism does not ask you to drown in shame. Shame is just another chain. Instead, you return. You look honestly. You learn what happened. You notice the trigger. You understand the promise the desire made. You see the cost. Then you begin again. Beginning again is part of the path. The mind becomes lighter, not because it never falls, but because it stops turning every fall into identity. You are not your craving. You are not your mistake. You are not your weakest impulse. You are the awareness that can learn from all of it. This understanding gives dignity to the practice. It keeps you from giving up when the old hunger returns. And it will return sometimes. Desire has momentum. Old patterns do not disappear just because you hear one beautiful teaching, but each time you meet them with awareness, they become less solid, less convincing, less divine. You begin to see that craving is often just a wave of energy moving through the body. It rises, it peaks, it changes, it fades. You do not have to turn every wave into a commandment. This is where living lighter becomes real. At first, you may think living lighter means removing things from life. Fewer possessions, fewer demands, fewer distractions, and yes, that can help. But the deepest lightness comes from removing ownership from desire. You may still have things, but they do not have you. You may still love people, but you do not make them responsible for your existence. You may still enjoy pleasure, but you do not use it to avoid truth. You may still pursue goals, but you do not let them steal the present. Your life may look similar on the outside, but inside everything changes. You drink tea, and it is just tea. You eat, and it is just eating. You work, and it is just work. You rest, and it is just rest. You love, and it is love, not possession. You plan, and it is planning, not panic. You succeed, and it is success, not identity. You fail, and it is failure, not the end of your worth. This simplicity is not small, it is profound. Desire complicates life when it adds stories to everything. This meal must comfort my sadness. This person must remove my loneliness. This job must prove my importance. This house must show my success. This body must earn admiration. This future must save me from uncertainty. Suddenly, nothing is just itself. Everything has to carry the weight of your unmet needs. No wonder life feels heavy. Buddhism teaches you to remove the extra weight. Let food be food. Let praise be praise. Let money be money. Let love be love. Let the body be the body. Let success be success. Let pleasure be pleasure. Enjoy what is wholesome. Care for what is important. But do not demand that any passing thing become your permanent refuge. Your refuge must be deeper. This is why the Buddha pointed toward awakening, not endless satisfaction. Endless satisfaction is impossible because desire keeps changing. Awakening is different. Awakening means you see the nature of craving, the impermanence of pleasure, the instability of identity, and the peace that comes when clinging stops. You no longer ask life to become something it can never be. You meet it as it is, with a mind that is learning not to grasp so tightly. And strangely, when you stop being owned by desire, you enjoy life more, because fear is no longer gripping everything. You can appreciate beauty without needing to possess it. You can enjoy a moment without worrying about losing it before it is even gone. You can love someone without constantly trying to control their feelings. You can receive a blessing without immediately fearing its disappearance. You can taste sweetness without becoming addicted to sweetness. This is a calmer joy. It is not loud. It does not depend on constant excitement. It does not need life to keep performing. It is the joy of enough. The joy of breathing without chasing. The joy of wanting without being whipped by wanting. The joy of being able to say, "This is pleasant," without also saying, "This must stay forever." It is a joy with open hands. Open-handed joy is one of the most beautiful fruits of the Buddhist path. It allows you to live fully without clinging tightly. It allows you to touch life without trying to imprison it. It allows you to care deeply without demanding ownership. It allows you to enjoy what comes and bow to what goes. This does not make you careless. It makes you wise. When you are no longer owned by desire, your love becomes cleaner. You stop using people as medicine for wounds they did not create. You stop demanding that others become the source of your peace. You stop confusing attachment with devotion. You can love someone and still let them be human. You can care and still keep your center. You can give without secretly buying control. You can receive without becoming dependent. Your work also becomes cleaner. You can serve without needing constant praise. You can build without making your worth dependent on results. You can improve without living under the whip of shame. You can accept correction without feeling destroyed. You can rest without guilt because you know you are not a machine built only for output. Even your relationship with yourself becomes kinder. You stop treating every desire as proof that something is wrong with you. You stop calling yourself weak because craving appears. You understand that the human mind produces wanting the way the sky produces weather. Some days are clear, some days are stormy. The practice is not to control the sky by force. The practice is to stop believing every cloud is the whole sky. You are the sky, not the passing weather. Desire may move through you, but it does not define the whole of you. Longing may rise, but it does not have the final word. Craving may speak loudly, but wisdom can answer softly. This is how freedom feels in real life. Not dramatic, not perfect, not beyond all feeling, just steady enough to not be ruled by every inner movement. And this steadiness becomes a gift to everyone around you. A person who is not owned by desire is less manipulative, less desperate, less reactive, less easily offended, less hungry for control. They do not need to drain others for validation. They do not turn relationships into emotional bargaining. They do not make every disappointment a disaster. Their presence becomes calmer because their inner world is no longer being pulled by every passing want. This is how personal freedom becomes compassion. When you are no longer enslaved by your own craving, you stop using people to satisfy it. You can listen better because you are not always trying to get something. You can give more freely because giving is not a strategy. You can forgive more honestly because your ego is not starving for victory. You can walk away more peacefully because attachment is not chaining your feet. This is the beauty of the Buddhist path. It begins with your own suffering, but it does not end with you. As your grip loosens, your kindness deepens. As your craving softens, your patience grows. As your desires stop owning you, your heart becomes less crowded. There is more room for wisdom, more room for gratitude, more room for others, more room for life as it is. So no, Buddhism does not kill desire. It kills the illusion that desire must be obeyed before peace can exist. It kills the lie that wanting is always wisdom. It kills the habit of handing your happiness to whatever your mind is chasing. It kills the old slavery, not the aliveness of the heart. You can still want, you can still love, you can still create, you can still enjoy, you can still walk toward meaningful things, but now you walk differently. You walk with awareness, you walk with open hands. You walk knowing that no desire, no matter how loud, is allowed to become the owner of your soul. And when desire no longer owns you, life becomes lighter in a way the world cannot easily understand. You are no longer dragged by every hunger, frightened by every absence, or controlled by every promise of more. You can stand in the middle of wanting and still remember who you are. You can feel the pull and still choose the path. You can meet desire at the door of the mind and say, you may enter, but you may not rule. That is freedom. That is Buddhism teaching the heart how to want without chains. And once desire no longer owns you, another hidden chain begins to reveal itself. It is not always the desire for money, comfort, pleasure, success, or control that makes life heavy. Sometimes the deepest desire is the need to be seen, the need for someone to notice your effort, the need for someone to confirm your pain, the need for someone to clap before you believe your life has value. And this is where Buddhism brings its quiet light, because one of the heaviest things a person can carry is a life that only feels real when others are watching. There is a sadness many people never say out loud. They are not only tired from living, they are tired from trying to prove that their living matters. You may do good things, but if nobody sees them, a small ache rises. You may grow quietly, but if nobody praises your growth, the mind asks if it even counts. You may survive private battles, but if nobody understands how much strength it took, part of you feels cheated. You may change, heal, mature, forgive, release, and rebuild, yet still feel a strange emptiness because there were no witnesses standing there saying, "I see what this cost you." This is a very human hunger. It is not something to hate. Every human being wants to be seen in some way. A child looks toward the parent after taking the first step. A student looks toward the teacher after doing the work. A lover looks toward the beloved after opening the heart. A wounded person looks toward the world, hoping someone will say, "That must have hurt." The need to be witnessed begins early, and when it is met with care, it helps the heart feel safe. But when it becomes the main proof that your life matters, it turns into another form of attachment. Buddhism does not deny the sweetness of being seen. It teaches you not to depend on it for your inner ground. There is nothing wrong with being appreciated. There is nothing wrong with wanting your kindness to be noticed, your work to be respected, your story to be understood, or your pain to be treated gently. The suffering begins when the mind says, if nobody sees this, it means nothing. If nobody praises me, I am failing. If nobody understands me, my life is invisible. If nobody claps, my effort has no value. That is when witnesses become chains. A person can become trapped in performing their own life. They no longer simply live. They live with an invisible audience in mind. They eat, dress, speak, work, post, help, succeed, struggle, and even heal while secretly wondering how it appears to others. The outer life may look active, but the inner life is being rented out to opinion. And slowly, without noticing, the person loses the ability to feel real in private. This is a painful loss because much of life is private. The deepest battles are private. The hardest choices are private. The quietest victories are private. The most important changes often happen without applause. Nobody sees the moment you almost returned to an old habit but chose peace. Nobody sees the night you cried and still woke up with kindness. Nobody sees the temptation you refused, the words you swallowed, the anger you softened, the fear you faced, or the old attachment you released with shaking hands. If you need witnesses before those moments matter, you will spend your life feeling underpaid by the world. The Buddhist path teaches a different way. It teaches that the value of an action is not created by applause. It is created by intention, awareness, and the freedom it brings to the mind. A kind act done in silence is still kind. A lesson learned in private is still wisdom. A wound healed without announcement is still healing. A boundary kept without explanation is still strength. A life lived with sincerity is still meaningful, even if no crowd gathers to approve it. This is one of the first freedoms of needing fewer witnesses. You stop measuring your life by how many people noticed. You start measuring it by how awake you were while living it. You stop asking, did they see me? And begin asking, was I present? Was I honest? Was I kind? Was I free from the old chain for one more moment? That shift is not small. It changes the whole atmosphere of the heart. The need for witnesses often grows from a wound. Somewhere inside, a person may carry the feeling that their experience does not count unless someone else confirms it. Maybe they were ignored as a child. Maybe their pain was dismissed. Maybe their effort was taken for granted. Maybe they were only praised when they performed well. Maybe they learned that love comes when they are impressive, useful, beautiful, strong, successful, or agreeable. So they grow into adults who keep searching for external mirrors. They keep asking the world, do I matter now? What about now? Can you see me now? But the world is not a reliable mirror. Sometimes it is distracted. Sometimes it is unfair. Sometimes it praises what is shallow and ignores what is sacred. Sometimes it claps for noise and overlooks quiet goodness. Sometimes it celebrates speed and misses patience. Sometimes it rewards performance and fails to recognize sincerity. If you build your sense of meaning on such a mirror, your heart will always be unstable. This is why Buddhism turns you inward, not inward in a selfish way, but inward toward the place where awareness lives. It teaches that you must develop an inner witness, a part of you that can see clearly without needing the whole world to see. A calm presence inside that notices your actions, your intentions, your suffering, your growth, your mistakes, your effort, and your return to the path. This inner witness is not the ego praising itself. It is awareness recognizing truth. There is a difference. The ego says, look how special I am. Awareness says, I see what is happening. The ego wants to be admired. Awareness wants to be awake. The ego needs an audience. Awareness needs honesty. The ego feels empty when nobody praises it. Awareness remains steady because it does not depend on applause to know what is real. When you cultivate this inner witness, you begin to feel less desperate for the outer one. You can still enjoy appreciation, but you no longer starve without it. You can still receive praise warmly, but you do not collapse when it is absent. You can still share your life with others, but you do not need every moment to be validated before it feels meaningful. You become more rooted, less easy to move, less hungry for proof. This does not happen overnight, because the need to be seen can be very deep. It may show up in small ways. You may feel irritated when nobody thanks you. You may feel hurt when your growth is not noticed. You may feel jealous when someone else receives attention for something you have been doing quietly for years. You may feel invisible when people only remember you when they need something. You may feel tempted to over-explain your pain so others finally understand how much it cost you. When these feelings arise, Buddhism does not ask you to pretend they are not there. It asks you to observe them with compassion. Instead of saying, "I should not need recognition," you can ask, "What part of me feels unseen right now?" Instead of attacking yourself for wanting praise, you can ask, "What am I hoping this praise will give me?" Instead of chasing attention immediately, you can sit with the ache and ask, "Can I witness myself here?" That question can be healing. Can I witness myself here? Can I see my own effort without waiting for someone else to name it? Can I respect my own growth even if nobody congratulates me? Can I honor my own pain even if nobody understands it? Can I keep doing what is right even when nobody rewards it? Can I let my life be meaningful in silence? This is not easy because the world trains people to perform. It teaches that what is not displayed is almost not real. If a moment is not posted, did it happen? If a success is not announced, does it count? If pain is not explained, will anyone care? If kindness is not witnessed, will anyone know you are good? This way of living turns life into a stage, and the soul becomes exhausted from constantly checking the audience. Buddhist wisdom gently pulls the curtain down. It says, life is not a performance first. It is an experience of awareness. You are not here only to be looked at. You are here to wake up. You are here to understand suffering. You are here to practice compassion. You are here to meet impermanence with humility. You are here to loosen the grip of ego. You are here to live truthfully, even when truth has no spectators. One of the deepest reasons people need witnesses is because they are still negotiating with their own worth. They do not feel enough from inside, so they borrow certainty from outside. A compliment becomes a temporary home. A like becomes a small dose of relief. A person's attention becomes proof of value. A crowd's approval becomes medicine for insecurity. But borrowed worth must always be renewed. It fades quickly. That is why the hungry ego always needs another witness. Today's praise cannot satisfy tomorrow's insecurity. Yesterday's applause cannot feed today's doubt. The ego has a short memory when it comes to validation. It asks again and again, "Do I still matter?" And no amount of outside recognition can permanently answer a question that must be healed at the root. Buddhism does not answer ego with more ego. It does not say, "You are the most important person and everyone should recognize you." It says something quieter and more freeing. The self you are trying so hard to defend is not as solid as you think. The image you are trying to protect, promote, and prove is made of thoughts, memories, roles, labels, and changing conditions. You suffer because you keep trying to make this image feel permanent, superior, and safe, but it cannot be made safe by witnesses because it is always changing. This teaching can feel uncomfortable at first, but it is mercy. If the self-image is not the deepest truth of who you are, then you do not have to spend your whole life feeding it. You do not have to decorate it endlessly. You do not have to drag it into every room and beg people to admire it. You do not have to keep defending a story that changes every season. When you stop trying so hard to be witnessed as someone, you become more available to simply being. And being is lighter than performing. Think about the peace of doing something without needing it to become part of your identity. You help someone, and it is just help. You create something, and it is just creation. You learn something, and it is just learning. You rest, and it is just rest. You make a mistake, and it is just a mistake. You succeed, and it is just success. Nothing has to become a billboard for who you are. Nothing has to prove that you are worthy of existing. This is a radical kind of freedom. Many people cannot taste this freedom because they are addicted to being recognized, not in a loud or obvious way, but in small, hidden ways. They need someone to notice their sacrifice. They need someone to mention their importance. They need someone to validate their beauty, intelligence, strength, pain, generosity, or uniqueness. And when that witness does not come, bitterness grows. They may still do good things, but resentment enters the heart because the goodness was secretly tied to being seen. This is where Buddhism purifies intention. It asks, can you give without needing to own the receiver's gratitude? Can you work without demanding praise as payment? Can you love without turning love into a receipt? Can you be good when nobody is recording the evidence? These questions are not meant to make you smaller. They are meant to free your goodness from the prison of recognition. Goodness that depends on applause becomes fragile. It becomes angry when ignored. It becomes proud when praised. It becomes tired when not rewarded. But goodness rooted in wisdom is quieter. It acts because the action is right. It helps because compassion naturally moves. It speaks truth because truth matters. It forgives when forgiveness frees the heart. It walks away when staying would strengthen suffering. It does not need the whole world to know. It is already complete in its sincerity. This does not mean you allow people to use you. That would be another misunderstanding. Needing fewer witnesses does not mean accepting neglect, disrespect, or invisibility in harmful relationships. Buddhism is not asking you to disappear. It is asking you to stop making your existence depend on recognition. You can still speak up. You can still ask for appreciation. You can still leave spaces where you are constantly unseen. You can still choose relationships where care is mutual. But you do these things from self-respect, not from the desperate hunger to be validated. There is a difference between wanting healthy recognition and being controlled by the need for it. Healthy recognition says, I value mutual care. Attachment says, if you do not see me, I am nothing. Healthy recognition builds honest relationships. Attachment creates emotional slavery. Healthy recognition can speak clearly and still remain grounded. Attachment panics, performs, pleases, resents, or collapses. To live lighter, you must learn which one is moving inside you. Sometimes the desire for witnesses becomes strongest after suffering. When you have been through something painful, you may want people to understand every detail. You may want them to know how deeply you were hurt, how unfair it was, how much you endured, how long you stayed strong, and there is tenderness in that wish. Pain wants company. Pain wants language. Pain wants someone to sit beside it and say, I believe you. But if closure depends on everyone understanding your pain, you may never be free. Some people will never understand. Some will understand too late. Some will misunderstand on purpose because truth would disturb their comfort. Some will reduce your story because they do not have the depth to hold it. Some will only see the part that benefits them. If your healing depends on their witness, they remain in control of your peace. Buddhist wisdom teaches you to reclaim that control, not by denying what happened, not by pretending it did not hurt, but by learning to say, my pain is real, even if they never admit it. My healing matters, even if they never witness it. My life can continue, even if the apology never comes. My truth does not need the approval of those who benefited from my silence. That is not bitterness. That is liberation. There is a sacred strength in privately validating your own experience. It is the moment you stop dragging your wound from person to person, hoping someone will finally give it permission to exist. You sit with it. You breathe with it. You name it honestly. You hold it with compassion. You stop abandoning yourself in the search for a perfect witness. And slowly, the wound no longer has to shout to be real. This is part of wanting less. Not wanting less life, less love, or less connection, but wanting fewer unnecessary permissions. You need fewer people to agree before you trust what you know. You need fewer compliments before you feel beautiful in your being. You need fewer spectators before your effort feels worthy. You need fewer explanations before your boundary feels valid. You need fewer witnesses before your life feels like it matters. That is a lighter life. A life that does not constantly ask, "Who saw this?" A life that can smile in private. A life that can grow quietly. A life that can do the right thing and sleep peacefully without needing to announce it. A life that can enjoy a sunrise without turning it into proof of refinement. A life that can help a stranger and let the act disappear into the day. A life that can suffer, heal, and rise without needing the whole world to understand the full story. This kind of life feels strange at first if you are used to being validated externally. Silence may feel like emptiness. Privacy may feel like invisibility. Quiet effort may feel pointless. But that is only because the mind has been trained to confuse attention with meaning. The more you practice, the more you discover that privacy can be sacred, silence can be nourishing, quiet effort can be powerful, unseen growth can be the most honest growth of all. A seed does not need applause beneath the soil. It grows in darkness before anyone sees the stem. The root work is hidden, but without it, nothing stands. Human growth is the same. The most important changes often happen beneath the surface, in places no one can admire. You become less reactive. You become more patient. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop chasing people who drain you. You stop proving your pain to those committed to misunderstanding it. You start choosing peace before performance. These roots may be invisible, but they hold your life together. The ego hates hidden roots because it wants visible flowers. It wants evidence. It wants admiration. It wants someone to say, "Look how much you have changed." But the soul knows better. The soul knows that unseen growth is still growth. The soul knows that the strongest transformation does not always come with witnesses. Sometimes it comes quietly when you choose differently and nobody notices except your own breathing. This is why needing fewer witnesses gives you back your energy. Performing takes energy. Explaining takes energy. Seeking approval takes energy. Trying to be understood by people who are not listening takes energy. Curating an image takes energy. Waiting for applause takes energy. When you stop needing so many witnesses, that energy returns to your life. You can use it for practice, kindness, creativity, rest, prayer, service, learning, healing, and presence. You stop leaking yourself into every opinion. You begin to live from the inside out, not the outside in. The outside in life keeps asking, how do I look? How am I being judged? Are they impressed? Do they approve? Did they notice? The inside-out life asks, is this true? Is this kind? Is this necessary? Is this aligned? Is this freeing? Does this reduce suffering or increase it? One life is heavy because it depends on constant reflection from others. The other is lighter because it is guided by awareness. This does not make you isolated. In fact, it can make your relationships healthier. When you need fewer witnesses, you stop demanding that people constantly confirm your existence. You can enjoy connection without squeezing it. You can receive love without turning it into proof that you are real. You can share your wins without needing envy. You can share your pain without needing total agreement. You can listen better because you are not always trying to be seen. The less you need people to validate your life, the more freely you can love them. This is one of the quiet miracles of non-attachment. Attachment says, "See me, or I will suffer." Love says, "I see you too." Attachment turns relationships into mirrors. Love turns them into meeting places. Attachment keeps asking, "What do I get from your attention?" Love asks, "Can we be present together without using each other?" When you no longer need every person to be your witness, you stop resenting them for being human. You stop expecting one friend, one partner, one child, one parent, or one audience to understand all of you perfectly. No human being can witness every layer of another person. Even the people who love you deeply will miss parts of your inner world. This is not always betrayal. Sometimes it is simply the limit of human perception. That is why the inner witness matters. It saves you from demanding godlike understanding from ordinary people. It allows others to love you imperfectly without becoming the only source of your worth. It helps you receive what they can give without collapsing over what they cannot. It also helps you choose better because you can tell the difference between normal human limitation and consistent emotional neglect. Buddhist awareness sharpens this discernment. It does not make you passive, it makes you clear. You can say, "This person cannot witness me fully, but they care." You can also say, "This person refuses to see me because seeing me would require accountability." These are different. Wisdom knows the difference. Attachment often does not. Attachment only screams, "I am not being seen," and reacts from pain. With awareness, you respond instead of reacting. You can ask for what you need without begging. You can explain once without building a courtroom. You can leave without turning the exit into a performance. You can accept love where it is present and stop digging for water in places that have always been dry. This is another freedom of needing fewer witnesses. You stop auditioning for attention in rooms that cannot honor your presence. You stop turning your life into evidence for people who already decided not to understand. You stop shrinking your truth into something more acceptable just to be approved. You stop living as if your worth is on trial. Your life is not a courtroom. You do not need to keep presenting proof that you deserve peace. Buddhism invites you to return to direct experience. Feel the breath, notice the body, observe the thought, watch the desire to be seen arise, watch the ache beneath it, watch the story that says, "Nobody notices me, so I must not matter." Then look closer. Is that story true, or is it an old wound speaking? Is meaning really absent, or is attention absent? Are they the same thing? Can something be meaningful even when unseen? A quiet yes begins to change everything. Yes, the prayer whispered alone matters. Yes, the discipline nobody sees matters. Yes, the kindness forgotten by others matters. Yes, the grief carried with dignity matters. Yes, the work done in small rooms matters. Yes, the healing that has no announcement matters. Yes, the life that looks ordinary from outside can be sacred from within. When this truth settles into the heart, comparison begins to lose some of its poison. You stop envying people who are more visible, because visibility is not the same as freedom. A person can be seen by thousands and still not feel known. A person can be praised by many and still feel empty. A person can live under constant attention and still be lonely in the deepest place. Being watched is not the same as being at peace. Sometimes visibility even increases suffering. The more witnesses you depend on, the more afraid you become of losing them. The more applause feeds you, the more silence frightens you. The more your identity depends on being admired, the more criticism feels like death. So what looked like power becomes another cage. The audience grows, but so does the fear. A lighter life may not always be the most visible life. Sometimes it is the life that belongs to itself. The life that can be sincere without being spectacular. The life that can be beautiful without being displayed. The life that can serve without needing a statue. The life that can grow in hidden places and still feel blessed. This is not a call to hide your gifts. If your work needs to be shared, share it. If your story can help others, speak it. If your light belongs in public, do not bury it out of fear. Buddhism is not asking you to disappear from the world. It is asking you to stop being enslaved by the world's gaze. Share from generosity, not hunger. Create from sincerity, not emptiness. Speak from truth, not performance. Let yourself be seen, but do not make being seen the oxygen of your soul. That balance is powerful. You can be visible without being owned by visibility. You can be appreciated without becoming addicted to appreciation. You can be misunderstood without losing your center. You can be unnoticed without feeling erased. This is not easy, but it is possible with practice. Practice begins in small, ordinary moments. Do something good and tell no one. Enjoy something beautiful without turning it into display. Let a private victory remain private for a while. Notice the discomfort that rises. Notice the urge to announce, explain, prove, or seek reaction. Smile gently at that urge. Do not hate it. It is just an old hunger asking for food. Then breathe and say, "This still matters." Those 3 words can become a practice. This still matters. No one praised me, but this still matters. No one noticed my effort, but this still matters. No one understood my pain, but my healing still matters. No one clapped for my discipline, but my discipline still matters. No one witnessed my restraint, but my peace still matters. No one saw how far I have come, but my path still matters. The more you practice, the more your inner ground strengthens. You stop living like a person waiting at the window for someone to confirm the weather of your own soul. You begin to know your inner weather directly. You can say, "Today I am hurting." You can say, "Today I am proud of my effort." You can say, "Today I need rest." You can say, "Today I acted with wisdom." You can say these things without needing a crowd to echo them back. This is self-trust. Self-trust is not arrogance. It is not thinking you are always right. It is the quiet ability to stay connected to your own experience without instantly surrendering it to outside judgment. It allows you to listen to feedback without losing yourself. It allows you to admit mistakes without collapsing into shame. It allows you to receive praise without becoming inflated. It allows you to move through life with less begging in the heart. And when the heart stops begging, it becomes available for peace. The freedom of needing fewer witnesses is really the freedom of returning ownership of your life to your own awareness. It is the freedom of not needing every sacred thing to become public before it counts. It is the freedom of no longer dragging your private growth into the marketplace of approval. It is the freedom of living with a quiet dignity that does not depend on constant confirmation. This freedom changes how you handle endings too. When a chapter closes, you do not need everyone to understand why. When you walk away from what hurts, you do not need a public defense. When you choose a slower, simpler, lighter path, you do not need those still addicted to noise to approve. When you release a desire, you do not need the world to honor the funeral. You can let things end in silence and still know something holy has happened. This is how wanting less becomes deeper. It is not only wanting fewer things, it is wanting fewer witnesses, fewer approvals, fewer explanations, fewer emotional signatures from people who cannot give you peace. It is wanting less performance and more presence, less applause and more truth, less display and more depth, less proving and more being. And as this lesson settles, life begins to feel softer. You no longer need to turn every moment into evidence. You no longer need to chase every eye. You no longer need to keep asking the world if your life is meaningful. You can sit quietly with your own breath and know that a life does not become sacred because many people saw it. It becomes sacred when it is lived with awareness. So let the world be loud if it wants to be loud. Let others chase witnesses if they still need to. Let praise come when it comes and go when it goes. Let attention rise and fall like weather. You are learning something more stable. You are learning to be present for your own life. You are learning to see yourself without worshipping yourself. You are learning to honor your path without turning it into a performance. And when you need fewer witnesses before you feel that your life matters, you become very hard to control. The world cannot easily starve you with silence. People cannot easily punish you by withholding approval. Rejection cannot easily erase you. Being unnoticed cannot easily break you. You have found a quieter source of dignity. You know what you lived. You know what you released. You know what you survived. You know what you are practicing. You know the small ways you are becoming free. And even if no one else sees every step, the path still counts beneath your feet. That is the freedom Buddhism points toward. A life that matters before it is praised. A heart that feels real before it is witnessed. A soul that can live lightly because it has stopped begging the world to keep confirming its weight. And once the soul stops begging the world to keep confirming its weight, another hidden attachment begins to show itself. It is quieter than applause, softer than ambition, and easier to defend because it feels harmless. It is comfort. Not the simple comfort of warmth, rest, food, shelter, or familiar kindness, but the kind of comfort the mind slowly turns into identity. The kind that begins as something you enjoy, then becomes something you depend on, then becomes something you cannot release without feeling as if you are losing yourself. This is where letting go becomes painful in a very personal way, because the mind does not only cling to what is big, it clings to what is familiar. It clings to the chair, the routine, the person, the role, the old story, the favorite escape, the lifestyle, the emotional pattern, the place where nothing surprises you, even if nothing truly nourishes you. And when life asks you to release it, the mind cries, "But this is who I am." That cry is where Buddhism asks you to look closer, because many things you call me may only be things you have repeated for a long time. Many things you call my nature may only be habits that became comfortable. Many things you call my life may only be arrangements your fear learned to recognize. And many things you call home may not be peace at all, but familiarity wearing the face of safety. There is a strange sadness in realizing that not every comfort is kind to you. Some comforts protect the body but weaken the spirit. Some comforts calm the mind for one evening but make life heavier over many years. Some comforts keep you from feeling pain but also keep you from feeling truth. Some comforts do not heal your loneliness, they only distract you from it. Some comforts do not free you from fear, they teach you how to decorate the cage. This is why the Buddhist path does not ask only, what hurts you? It also asks, what comforts you in a way that keeps you asleep? That question can feel uncomfortable because people usually defend their comforts more than their wounds. If something hurts, they may eventually admit it, but if something soothes them, even poorly, they protect it. They say, this is just how I relax. This is just my routine. This is just my personality. This is just what I like. This is just who I am. But what if it is not who you are? What if it is only what you use to avoid meeting yourself more deeply? The mind is clever. It can take something simple and wrap it in identity. A person does not only say, I drink this every morning. They say, I am the kind of person who cannot start the day without it. They do not only say, I like being alone. They say, "I am just not someone who needs people," even when loneliness is quietly hurting them. They do not only say, "I enjoy nice things." They say, "This lifestyle is me." Until a financial change feels like a death of self. They do not only say, "I prefer routine." They say, "I cannot handle change," until life becomes smaller and smaller. This is how comfort becomes identity, repetition becomes personality, preference becomes prison, familiarity becomes false self. At first, the comfort is just a tool. It helps you feel steady. It gives pleasure. It creates rhythm. There is nothing wrong with that. Buddhism is not against warmth, food, friendship, beauty, rest, or ordinary joys. The path is not asking you to reject every cushion and sleep on stones to prove you are free. The problem begins when comfort stops being something you use wisely and becomes something you must have before you can feel okay. When comfort becomes necessary for peace, it becomes a master. This is why letting go feels personal. You are not only releasing an object, a habit, a place, a relationship, or a routine. You are releasing the version of yourself that was built around it. If you have always been the person who stays in control, surrender feels like losing yourself. If you have always been the person who keeps everyone close, solitude feels like punishment. If you have always been the person who receives attention, silence feels like erasure. If you have always been the person who never starts over, change feels like humiliation. The pain is not only in the thing leaving, the pain is in the identity shaking. Buddhism teaches that the self is not as fixed as we believe. What you call I is often a collection of changing thoughts, feelings, memories, roles, habits, desires, fears, and conditions. You say, "This is me," but look carefully. The things you once thought were, you have changed many times. There was a version of you who wanted things you no longer want. A version who feared things that no longer frighten you. A version who loved places you outgrew. A version who believed certain people were permanent. A version who could not picture the life you have now. So which one was the real you? This question is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to loosen the grip. If the self has always been changing, then letting go is not the destruction of who you are. It is part of the unfolding of who you are becoming. But attachment makes every change feel like an attack. It says, "If this ends, I end." It says, "If this routine changes, I will not know myself." It says, "If this person leaves, my identity disappears." It says, "If I lose this comfort, life will become unbearable." But has that always been true? Or has the mind simply become used to one shape of living? The mind loves what it can predict. Even if the predictable thing is not healthy, it still feels safer than the unknown. This is why people cling to familiar discomfort. They may complain about their routine, but fear changing it. They may dislike the relationship, but fear the silence after it. They may feel trapped by a lifestyle, but fear being seen without it. They may hate the pressure of being a certain kind of person, but fear who they would be without that role. The familiar pain becomes easier to hold than unfamiliar freedom. This is one reason letting go can feel so strange. Freedom does not always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes freedom feels empty because the old structure is gone. Sometimes freedom feels like confusion because the mind no longer knows what to grab. Sometimes freedom feels like grief because even the things that hurt you were part of your daily shape. Buddhism understands this. It does not shame you for missing what you had to release. It teaches you to see the missing clearly without turning it into a command to return. Because missing something does not always mean it belongs in your life. Sometimes it only means your nervous system remembers it. Sometimes it only means a habit is asking for its old seat. Sometimes it only means the mind has not yet learned how to rest in a new space. This is where awareness becomes medicine. When the old comfort calls, you do not have to obey immediately. You can pause and ask, what am I actually missing? Am I missing the thing itself, or the version of myself I was allowed to be around it? Am I missing peace or predictability? Am I missing love or the habit of being needed? Am I missing joy or the distraction from discomfort? Am I missing safety or simply the absence of change? These questions open the door to wisdom. A person may say they miss a certain relationship, but beneath it, they miss being desired. Another may say they miss an old job, but beneath it, they miss having a clear identity. Another may say they miss a lifestyle, but beneath it, they miss feeling admired. Another may say they miss their old routine, but beneath it, they miss not having to face uncertainty. The surface longing points to something deeper. If you only chase the surface, you may return to the same chain. If you understand the deeper hunger, you can meet it in a freer way. Comfort often becomes identity because it gives the mind a place to hide from uncertainty. The more uncertain life feels, the more people cling to what is familiar. They cling to the old food, the old chair, the old schedule, the old friend, the old label, the old pain, the old room, the old argument, the old way of being loved, even when it no longer fits. The mind would rather be certain and cramped than uncertain and growing. But the Buddhist path teaches that uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the nature of life. Everything changes. Bodies change, homes change, relationships change, desires change, beliefs change, seasons change. Even the person reading this today will not be exactly the same tomorrow. The suffering begins when you demand that changing things keep your identity stable. You ask a passing thing to make you permanent. That is too much weight for any comfort to carry. A home can shelter you, but it cannot make yourself eternal. A person can love you, but they cannot freeze your identity in one safe form. A routine can support you, but it cannot protect you from impermanence. A possession can please you, but it cannot prove who you are. A role can guide you, but it cannot contain the whole of your being. When you ask these things to become yourself, they begin to feel heavy. And when they change, you feel as if the ground has disappeared. This is why simplicity can feel threatening. A person who has built identity around possessions may feel naked with less. A person who has built identity around being busy may feel useless in rest. A person who has built identity around being needed may feel empty when others no longer depend on them. A person who has built identity around suffering may feel lost when peace arrives. Yes, even pain can become an identity. Sometimes people do not know who they are without the story of what hurt them. This does not mean their pain was not real. It means the mind can build a home inside even painful stories. It can say, this is what explains me. This is why I am the way I am. This is my proof. This is my name. And when healing begins, part of the mind resists because healing threatens the identity built around the wound, so even relief can feel unfamiliar. This is one of the most tender parts of the path. You may pray to be free, but when freedom comes, you may reach back for the chain because the chain is known. You may want peace, but when peace arrives, it may feel too quiet. You may want a lighter life, but when life becomes lighter, you may wonder who you are without the heaviness you carried for so long. Buddhism teaches you to meet this with patience. You do not force yourself to become new by hating what was old. You simply see the old clearly. You bow to the comfort it once gave. You acknowledge that it may have helped you survive a season. But you also recognize when survival tools have become limitations. Something can have served you once and still need to be released now. That sentence alone can free many people. Something can have served you once and still need to be released now. The routine that protected you in grief may now be isolating you from life. The identity that helped you feel strong may now be keeping you from softness. The comfort that helped you cope may now be keeping you from healing. The place that once felt like refuge may now be too small for your growth. The role that once gave you meaning may now be blocking the next honest stage of your life. Letting go does not mean insulting the past. It means recognizing that the past is not allowed to imprison the present. This is where many people get stuck. They think releasing something means it was worthless, so they hold on out of loyalty. They stay loyal to old comforts, old labels, old dreams, old versions of themselves. They say, "But this was always my thing. This is how I have always lived. This is what people know me for. This is what made me feel safe. This is what I built. This is what I chose." And because they do not want to betray the old self, they abandon the new one trying to be born. But growth often requires a gentle betrayal of who you used to be. Not a cruel betrayal, not a denial, a gentle one. The kind that says, "Thank you for carrying me this far, but I cannot stay here." The kind that says, "You were my shelter, but now you have become my ceiling." The kind that says, "I honor what this meant, but I must not confuse meaning with permanence." This is how wisdom releases comfort without hatred. The ego wants letting go to be dramatic. It wants a final victory, a clean break, a powerful announcement. But many times, letting go is quiet. It is not always a grand exit. It is a small refusal to keep feeding the old identity. It is waking up and not reaching for the same distraction. It is sitting in a new silence without rushing to fill it. It is choosing a simpler meal, a slower pace, a more honest conversation, a cleaner boundary, a lighter possession, a humbler role, a more truthful life. At first, the mind may protest. It may say, "This does not feel like me," and perhaps it does not. But that may be because the me you know was shaped by attachment. A freer self may feel unfamiliar before it feels natural. This is why practice matters. You do not become unattached by thinking one beautiful thought. You become unattached by repeatedly meeting the discomfort of release and not running back every time it speaks. You learn that discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes it is the feeling of identity loosening. Sometimes it is the old self losing control. Sometimes it is the space before a new way of being has settled. The body may feel uneasy. The mind may create reasons to return. Memories may become sweeter than they really were. Old comforts may look more innocent from a distance. This is normal. Attachment often edits the past. It remembers the sweetness and hides the cost. It remembers the familiar and forgets the suffocation. It remembers the comfort and ignores the way your spirit was shrinking. This is why awareness must be honest. When you are tempted to return to an old comfort that no longer serves you, do not only ask, "What did it give me?" Also ask, "What did it take from me?" Did it take your courage? Did it take your time? Did it take your honesty? Did it take your health? Did it take your ability to be present? Did it take your willingness to grow? Did it take your peace in exchange for temporary relief? Every comfort has a cost if it becomes unconscious. Even a soft bed becomes a problem if it keeps you from rising into your life. Even a familiar room becomes a prison if fear locks the door. Even praise becomes poison if it makes silence unbearable. Even routine becomes a chain if you cannot adapt when life changes. Even identity becomes suffering if you defend it more than truth. Buddhism does not ask you to reject comfort. It asks you to stop sleeping inside it. There is a beautiful difference. You can enjoy comfort with awareness. You can rest without becoming lazy. You can have preferences without becoming rigid. You can own things without being owned by them. You can love routines without fearing change. You can receive pleasure without turning it into a hiding place. You can say, This is pleasant, without saying, this must stay forever or I cannot be okay. This is the heart of non-attachment. Non-attachment is not coldness. It is intimacy without imprisonment. It lets you touch life deeply without trying to freeze it. It lets you appreciate a season while knowing it will pass. It lets you love a comfort without building your whole identity on it. It lets you enjoy what is here without becoming terrified of its absence. When you live this way, letting go becomes less personal. It may still hurt, but it does not destroy your sense of self. You can say, "This is changing," instead of, "I am ending." You can say, "This comfort is leaving," instead of, "My life is losing meaning." You can say, "This role is complete," instead of, "I am nothing without it." You can say, "This chapter is closing," instead of, "I have been erased." Language matters because the mind listens to the stories you tell it. If you tell the mind, "I cannot live without this," it will panic when change comes. If you tell the mind, "This has been meaningful, but I am larger than this," it begins to breathe. If you tell the mind, "This comfort is not my identity," it slowly learns to release. If you tell the mind, "I can meet discomfort without obeying fear," it becomes stronger. Not harshly stronger, but deeply rooted. The practice is to return again and again to what is true. You are not your possessions. You are not your habits. You are not your favorite escapes. You are not your role in other people's lives. You are not your routine. You are not your reputation. You are not the old pain. You are not even the passing story your mind tells about who you must be. You are the awareness that can notice all of these things changing. This awareness is the place where freedom begins. When awareness is weak, identity attaches to everything. My house, my status, my people, my comfort, my pain, my routine, my success, my image, my way. The word "my" becomes sticky. It wraps itself around life and says, "This belongs to me, and because it belongs to me, it defines me." But life does not obey ownership. Everything you call mine is passing through your hands. Even the body you call yours changes without asking permission. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to wake you. If everything is passing through, then the wise way is not to grip until your hands hurt. The wise way is to care, appreciate, use, honor, and release when the time comes. A person who understands this does not become careless. In fact, they may become more loving, because when you know something is not yours forever, you stop taking it for granted. You taste the tea more fully. You speak more gently. You notice the ordinary day. You care for the body with gratitude. You listen to loved ones more closely. You enjoy the home while you are in it. You respect the routine without worshipping it. Impermanence does not make life meaningless. It makes attention sacred. Attachment says, "Because this will pass, I must hold it tighter." Wisdom says, "Because this will pass, I must meet it fully while it is here." This changes everything. Comfort becomes clean again when it is held with wisdom. The warm blanket is just warmth. The quiet room is just quiet. The morning routine is just support. The familiar face is just a blessing. The simple meal is just nourishment. Nothing has to become a fortress against change. Nothing has to become a costume for the self. Nothing has to carry the impossible burden of making you permanent. You begin to enjoy comfort without hiding inside it. And when life asks you to release something, you suffer less because you have practiced not turning everything into identity. The person who has practiced open hands still feels grief, but not the same panic. The person who has practiced awareness still feels loss, but not the same collapse. The person who has practiced simplicity still feels change, but not the same humiliation. They understand that something can leave without taking the whole self with it. This is emotional maturity, not the absence of pain, but the ability to feel pain without creating a false self around it. Not the absence of comfort, but the ability to enjoy comfort without becoming dependent on it. Not the absence of identity, but the ability to hold identity lightly, knowing it is a useful story, not an eternal prison. The world encourages fixed identity because fixed identity is easy to sell to. If you believe, I am this kind of person, someone can sell you everything that matches the image. If you believe, I cannot be okay without this lifestyle, the world can keep you afraid. If you believe, my comfort is who I am, then every change becomes a market for more fear, more products, more distractions, more promises. Buddhism cuts through this gently. It asks, who are you before the label? Who are you before the habit? Who are you before the comfort? Who are you when nobody confirms the role? Who are you when the familiar thing is gone? At first, these questions may feel empty, but stay with them. Beneath the fear, there is space. Beneath the space, there is awareness. Beneath awareness, there is a peace that does not need so many decorations. This peace is not boring, it is simple. And simplicity often feels boring to a mind addicted to identity. The mind wants drama, definition, and something to defend. It wants to say, this is me, this is mine, this is my story, this is my comfort, this is my place. But the deeper heart wants freedom more than drama. It wants rest more than performance. It wants truth more than a familiar cage. To live lighter, you must choose that deeper heart again and again. You may begin with small releases. Let one routine change without turning it into a crisis. Let one comfort be absent without deciding the day is ruined. Let one opinion of yourself soften. Let one old label fall away. Let one unnecessary possession leave your space. Let one familiar complaint go unspoken. Let one old emotional reaction dissolve before it becomes your identity again. These small acts train the mind to see that letting go does not equal death. Each small release teaches the nervous system, I can remain whole. I can remain whole without this exact routine. I can remain whole without this object. I can remain whole without this role. I can remain whole without this person's constant presence. I can remain whole without the old story. I can remain whole while life changes. The more the mind learns this, the less personal change feels. It becomes part of the movement of life, not an insult directed at you. A season ending is not life attacking you. A comfort fading is not life erasing you. A role changing is not life humiliating you. A familiar path closing is not life rejecting you. These are movements. Conditions shift. Causes ripen. Things arise and pass. This is the nature of the world. The more you fight this nature, the heavier life becomes. The more you understand it, the more lightly you can walk. There is a quiet dignity in saying, I loved this, but I am not only this. I loved this home, but I am not only this home. I loved this routine, but I am not only this routine. I loved this version of myself, but I am not only this version. I loved this comfort, but I am not only this comfort. I loved this chapter, but I am not only this chapter. That sentence creates space between love and attachment. Love can honor what was. Attachment cannot let it breathe. Love can say thank you. Attachment says stay forever. Love can grieve and still bow. Attachment grieves and then chains itself to the past. Love remembers with tenderness. Attachment remembers with hunger. Love allows life to move. Attachment demands that life become a museum. But you are not here to live in a museum of old comforts. You are here to wake up inside a living, changing world. You are here to learn how to touch life without trapping it. You are here to let comfort support you, not define you. You are here to let identity serve the path, not become the path. You are here to discover that who you are is not destroyed every time life removes what you used to lean on. This is why letting go is not only loss, it is revelation. It shows you where you placed yourself. It shows you what you are asking to carry your identity. It shows you which comforts had become hidden gods. It shows you where fear was pretending to be preference. It shows you where your life had become too small around something familiar. And if you let the teaching work inside you, letting go also reveals what remains. When the object leaves, awareness remains. When the routine changes, breath remains. When the role dissolves, presence remains. When the old comfort fades, the capacity to meet life remains. When the identity cracks, something quieter and more honest can begin to shine through. This is not emptiness as nothingness. It is emptiness as openness, the space where a new relationship with life can begin. Many people fear this space because it has no familiar furniture, but space is not failure. Space is possibility. It is where the mind learns not to fill every silence with the old self. It is where you can ask, what is true now? Not, what was familiar? Not, what will people recognize? Not, what keeps me comfortable? But, what is true now? That question is powerful. It brings you back from identity to reality. Reality may say, this comfort helped you, but now it is keeping you asleep. Reality may say, this role was meaningful, but now it is complete. Reality may say, this habit gave relief, but now it is taking your freedom. Reality may say, this old version of you deserves gratitude, but not obedience. Reality may say, you can live lighter now, and maybe the heart trembles. That is okay. Trembling does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes the heart trembles when it is standing at the edge of freedom. The Buddhist path gives you a way to step forward gently, not by forcing yourself to abandon everything overnight, but by practicing clear seeing. Notice what you defend too quickly. Notice what you say you cannot live without. Notice where your mood depends on a comfort staying exactly the same. Notice where change feels like an attack on your identity. Notice where you confuse preference with survival. Notice where you call something me because you are afraid to meet the space beyond it. This noticing is not judgment, it is liberation beginning. Because once you notice, you have a choice. You can keep living inside the old identity, or you can loosen it. You can keep insisting the comfort is who you are, or you can say, this is something I have known, but it is not the whole of me. You can keep making release personal, or you can see it as part of the path. This is how wanting less becomes more than owning fewer things. It becomes needing fewer fixed identities. It becomes needing fewer familiar comforts to feel real. It becomes needing fewer routines to feel safe. It becomes needing fewer old stories to explain your worth. It becomes the freedom to change without feeling erased. That is living lighter, not because life stops changing, but because you stop asking every comfort to hold your identity in place. Not because you never feel loss, but because loss no longer convinces you that you have disappeared. Not because you reject pleasure, but because pleasure no longer decides who you are. Not because you become empty of love, but because love is no longer mixed with possession. And when the mind no longer turns simple comfort into identity, letting go becomes less like losing yourself and more like returning to yourself. You return to the part of you that was present before the habit formed, before the role hardened, before the comfort became a cage, before the story became a name, before the mind said, I am this, and I cannot be anything else. You return to awareness. You return to breath. You return to the open space where life can move through you without being trapped. You return to the quiet truth that you can enjoy what is here, release what is leaving, and still remain whole. This is the freedom Buddhism points toward. A life where comfort is welcome but not worshipped. A life where identity is useful but not absolute. A life where change may hurt but does not have to destroy you. A life where you can say goodbye to what once held you and discover that the deepest part of you was never inside it. And from that discovery, the heart becomes lighter, not because it has nothing to lose, but because it no longer mistakes every loss for the loss of itself. And when the heart no longer mistakes every loss for the loss of itself, a new kind of wealth begins to appear. Not the kind that can be counted, displayed, protected, compared, or taken away by the next change in life. A quieter wealth. A wealth that rises when the soul stops begging the world for more proof, more comfort, more witnesses, more identity, and more control. This is where Buddhism changes the meaning of wanting less. It is not a life becoming poor. It is a heart becoming rich enough to stop reaching in every direction. There is a misunderstanding that keeps many people trapped. They think wanting less means becoming small, weak, passive, empty, or defeated. They think it means giving up beauty, pleasure, success, love, comfort, and dreams. They hear the words, want less, and something inside them becomes afraid because the mind has been trained to believe that more is the only sign of a life that is growing. More money means progress. More attention means value. More possessions mean security. More options mean freedom. More desire means ambition. More noise means importance. So when Buddhism whispers, want less, the restless mind hears, lose everything. But that is not what the teaching means. Wanting less is not poverty of spirit. It is not a dry life. It is not the death of joy. It is not sitting in sadness and pretending you are above human needs. Wanting less is the beginning of inner wealth, because it returns your energy from the endless chase back to the place where life is actually lived. It gives you back your attention. It gives you back your breath. It gives you back your ability to enjoy simple things without needing them to become bigger, louder, shinier, or more impressive. A poor spirit is not the one that owns little. A poor spirit is the one that cannot feel enough, even when much has been given. A poor spirit is the one that eats but does not taste, rests but does not soften, receives love but still looks for more proof, reaches goals but cannot feel grateful, stands in beauty but compares it to another beauty, holds blessings but treats them like stepping stones to the next hunger. That is poverty, even if the outside life looks full. Inner wealth begins when the heart can finally say, this is enough for this moment, not forever, not as a refusal to grow, not as a denial of future responsibility, but as a recognition that life is already touching you here. The breath is here, the body is here, the sky is here, the chance to choose again is here, the ability to see clearly is here, the possibility of kindness is here. The present moment may not have everything the mind demands, but it has more than craving allows you to notice. Craving makes life look poor because it keeps pointing to what is missing. It is like a person sitting at a table with food, water, light, and companionship, but staring only at the one empty chair. The empty chair may matter, the absence may be real, but if the whole heart becomes fixed on that absence, everything present becomes invisible. This is how people suffer in the middle of blessings, not because they have nothing, but because the mind has been trained to bow before lack. Buddhism does not ask you to deny lack. It asks you not to worship it. There is a difference. Denial says, I do not need anything. Nothing hurts. Nothing is missing. Wisdom says, something may be missing, but it does not have to erase what remains. Denial pretends. Wisdom sees. Denial becomes hard. Wisdom becomes spacious. Denial rejects desire through fear. Wisdom understands desire and refuses to be ruled by it. This is why wanting less must be rooted in awareness, not suppression. When wanting less is forced, it becomes bitterness. A person says, "I do not care," but inside they are burning with envy. They say, "I do not need anyone," but inside they are wounded. They say, "I am above money," but inside they are afraid of not having enough. They say, "I have no desires," but secretly their mind is full of comparison. This is not inner wealth. This is poverty wearing spiritual clothing. True wanting less feels different. It does not come from resentment. It comes from seeing. You look at the chase and realize how expensive it has been, not only in money, but in peace, sleep, attention, dignity, relationships, patience, and presence. You begin to understand that every unnecessary desire collects a tax from your life. It may take your time. It may take your calm. It may take your ability to be grateful. It may take your power to focus. It may take your honesty. It may take your freedom. Then, slowly, you stop calling every desire a need. This is where wealth begins, because the person who needs less is harder to control. The world cannot frighten them as easily. Advertisements cannot pull them by every insecurity. People cannot manipulate them with approval the same way. Trends cannot make them feel behind every week. Comparison cannot steal every ordinary joy. Silence cannot threaten them as deeply. Simplicity no longer feels like failure. They can look at something beautiful and say, "That is beautiful," without immediately saying, "It must be mine." Do you know how much freedom lives in that space? To appreciate without possessing, to admire without envying, to enjoy without clinging, to receive without becoming addicted, to lose without believing life is over. This is a wealth most people never taste because they are too busy trying to own every pleasant thing they touch. But possession is not the same as richness. Sometimes the more you own, the more you fear. The more you collect, the more you protect. The more you attach, the more you tremble. The more you identify with what you have, the more every change becomes a threat. Inner wealth is different. It does not need to guard itself so violently because it is not built only on things outside the heart. It is built on clarity, contentment, patience, compassion, discipline, gratitude, and the ability to remain present. These are treasures no thief can easily steal. A person can lose money and still keep wisdom. They can lose praise and still keep dignity. They can lose comfort and still keep courage. They can lose a plan and still keep awareness. They can lose a role and still keep the capacity to love, learn, and begin again. That is wealth. The world may not call it wealth because the world often values what can be displayed. It loves visible success. It loves big numbers. It loves status, beauty, speed, ownership, influence, and noise. But Buddhism asks a deeper question. What good is an impressive life if the mind living inside it is restless, jealous, frightened, and never satisfied? What good is having more if more only makes the hunger stronger? What good is being seen by many if you cannot sit peacefully with yourself? What good is possessing many comforts if you are terrified of one discomfort? The richest person is not always the one with the most things. Sometimes it is the one who can enjoy a simple meal without needing it to prove anything. The one who can sleep with a clear conscience. The one who can hear praise without becoming drunk and hear criticism without being destroyed. The one who can work hard without hating the present. The one who can love without ownership. The one who can be alone without feeling abandoned. The one who can live quietly without feeling like life has become meaningless. Wanting less makes space for this kind of wealth. When the mind wants too much, the heart becomes crowded. There is no room for gratitude because desire keeps shouting. No room for peace because comparison keeps entering. No room for kindness because the ego is busy defending its image. No room for rest because ambition has become a whip. No room for joy because the mind keeps saying, not yet, not enough, not this, not here. A crowded heart can be surrounded by blessings and still feel poor. But when wanting softens, space opens. You begin to notice what was already there: the quiet support of the body, the kindness of one honest person, the relief of a clean breath, the beauty of a slow morning, the protection hidden in a closed door, the wisdom gained from a disappointment, the dignity of not needing to chase every eye, the peace of not turning every comfort into identity, the strength of not obeying every desire. This is not a small life. This is a life finally being tasted. Many people do not taste their lives. They only chase through them. They pass through days as if days are only bridges to future achievements. They turn ordinary moments into tools. They eat while thinking of work. They work while thinking of rest. They rest while feeling guilty. They speak while waiting to be admired. They listen while planning what to say next. They move through the world with the mind always leaning forward, always reaching, always hungry. Then they wonder why life feels thin. Wanting less brings thickness back to life. Depth returns. One conversation becomes enough to touch the heart. One quiet evening becomes enough to restore the body. One sincere friendship becomes more valuable than a room full of shallow attention. One meaningful task becomes more satisfying than 10 things done only for image. One moment of real presence becomes richer than hours of distracted pleasure. This is the wealth of attention, and attention is one of the most precious things you have. Where your attention goes, your life goes. If attention is always chasing what is missing, your life will feel like lack. If attention is always comparing, your life will feel inferior. If attention is always trapped in fear, your life will feel unsafe. If attention is always feeding desire, your life will feel hungry. But if attention returns to what is real, what is present, what is wholesome, what is enough for this breath, then life begins to reveal its hidden richness. Buddhism trains attention because attention shapes suffering. The same room can feel poor to a craving mind and peaceful to an awakened one. The same simple meal can feel disappointing to comparison and nourishing to gratitude. The same silence can feel empty to the ego and sacred to awareness. The same slow season can feel like failure to ambition and like restoration to wisdom. The world changes when the mind changes its relationship to it. This is why wanting less is not about lowering your value. It is about raising your awareness. A person who wants less is not saying, "I deserve nothing." They are saying, "I refuse to make my peace depend on everything." They are not saying, "I am unworthy of beauty." They are saying, "Beauty does not have to become possession before I can enjoy it." They are not saying, "I have no dreams." They are saying, "My dreams are not allowed to turn my present life into an enemy." They are not saying, "I reject abundance." They are saying, "Abundance without contentment is just another form of hunger." This is important because some people confuse contentment with defeat. They believe that if you are content, you will stop growing. But true contentment does not kill growth. It purifies it. When you are content, you can grow from love instead of fear. You can improve from respect instead of shame. You can build from creativity instead of panic. You can serve from generosity instead of needing applause. You can dream from fullness instead of emptiness. Growth that comes from fullness feels different. It is not desperate. It is not trying to prove that you have the right to exist. It is not trying to outrun an old wound. It is not trying to make others envy you. It does not turn every delay into disaster. It has patience because it is not starving. It has humility because it knows success is not selfhood. It has resilience because failure does not destroy its center. This is inner wealth in motion. When wanting less begins, You may lose interest in certain things that used to excite you, not because you are becoming sad, but because your taste is becoming wiser. You may no longer enjoy conversations built only on comparison. You may no longer crave attention from people who do not truly know you. You may no longer want to buy things just to repair a mood. You may no longer chase relationships where your dignity has to beg. You may no longer feel impressed by lifestyles that require inner emptiness to maintain. At first, this may feel strange. You may wonder, am I losing ambition? Am I becoming boring? Am I falling behind? But often, what is really happening is that your spirit is becoming less easy to bribe. Things that once controlled you no longer taste the same. The sweetness is still there in some places, but the poison is more visible. You begin to feel the cost behind certain pleasures. You begin to hear the noise inside certain desires. You begin to notice how much of what people call success is actually restlessness with better clothing. This seeing may separate you from certain crowds, and that can hurt. When you stop wanting what everyone else is chasing, some people may not understand you. They may call you lazy, strange, unmotivated, too quiet, too simple, too serious, too spiritual, or not hungry enough. But do not be too quick to trade peace for acceptance. A person who is addicted to noise may not recognize the value of silence. A person who lives by comparison may not understand contentment. A person who worships more may mistake enough for failure. Let them misunderstand what they have not yet tasted. The path of wanting less is not always loud enough to impress people, but it is deep enough to save you from wasting your life. It saves you from buying what you do not need to impress people who are also afraid. It saves you from chasing praise that fades by morning. It saves you from mistaking busyness for purpose. It saves you from staying attached to pain because pain feels familiar. It saves you from measuring your worth by witnesses, comfort, identity, and endless becoming. It gives you back the simple authority to say, no, that is not needed. No, I do not need to prove this. No, I do not need to own that. No, I do not need to chase them. No, I do not need to explain my peace. No, I do not need to turn my life into a performance. No, I do not need to keep feeding a desire that never feeds me back. Every wise no creates space for a deeper yes. Yes to peace. Yes to clarity. Yes to enough. Yes to rest without guilt. Yes to work with sincerity. Yes to love without self-abandonment. Yes to joy that does not require display. Yes to a life that may look simpler outside but feels richer within. This is why wanting less is not empty. It is selective. It stops giving everything permission to enter the house of your mind. Inner wealth requires protection, not the anxious protection of hoarding, but the wise protection of boundaries. You protect your attention. You protect your energy. You protect your values. You protect your body from unnecessary strain. You protect your heart from shallow cravings. You protect your peace from constant comparison. You protect your time from things that only make you feel important while pulling you away from what is true. This protection is not selfish. A scattered person cannot offer much depth to the world. A person ruled by craving may give, but often with hidden need. A person consumed by proving may help, but secretly demand recognition. A person exhausted by wanting may love, but with fear beneath it. But a person with inner wealth has something cleaner to offer. Their presence becomes less hungry. Their kindness becomes less transactional. Their listening becomes more sincere. Their love becomes less possessive. Wanting less makes compassion easier because the ego takes up less space. When you are not constantly chasing your own image, you can see others more clearly. When you are not obsessed with having more, you can share more freely. When you are not starving for validation, you can celebrate others without feeling robbed. When you are not ruled by comfort, you can serve even when it is inconvenient. When you are not owned by identity, you can admit mistakes without protecting a false self. This is why inner wealth is not private in the selfish sense. It begins inside, but it blesses the world around you. A peaceful person changes the room. A content person reduces the pressure to perform. A generous person reminds others that life is not only competition. A grounded person makes chaos less contagious. A person who wants less from ego can give more from love. And yet, this path requires courage. Wanting less sounds soft, but it can be difficult. It asks you to face the fear beneath your wanting. It asks you to sit with the emptiness you used to cover with more. It asks you to stop using shopping, praise, control, work, romance, entertainment, or achievement as medicine for wounds they cannot heal. It asks you to meet yourself without so many decorations. At first, you may feel bare. When the usual cravings lose their power, there may be a quiet space you do not know how to fill. But do not rush to fill it. That space is not a mistake. It is the clearing where inner wealth grows. If you fill every silence with old desires, you never discover what peace sounds like. If you fill every loneliness with distraction, you never learn how to befriend yourself. If you fill every uncertainty with control, you never develop trust. Let the space teach you. In that space, you may discover that you need less stimulation than you thought, less approval than you feared, less luxury than you chased, less noise than you used, less control than you defended, less explanation than you practiced, less resentment than you carried. You may discover that the heart has been asking for something simpler all along: steadiness, honesty, kindness, breath, presence, and a life that does not constantly betray the soul. This discovery is wealth because it cannot be bought. No one can sell you a peaceful relationship with your own mind. They can point, teach, guide, and support. But you must practice. You must observe the craving when it rises. You must feel the discomfort without running. You must choose the wholesome path when the old hunger promises quick relief. You must return after mistakes. You must keep loosening the grip. Slowly, the mind begins to trust enough. Enough does not mean nothing more can happen. It means this moment does not have to be hated while life continues to unfold. Enough means you can breathe while unfinished. Enough means you can be grateful while still growing. Enough means you can honor what is present without denying what still needs care. Enough means the soul is no longer postponed. That is the beginning of inner wealth. The soul is no longer postponed until the next achievement. No longer postponed until someone loves you perfectly. No longer postponed until money removes every fear. No longer postponed until the body matches a fantasy. No longer postponed until everyone understands your pain. No longer postponed until life becomes exactly what you planned. You return to yourself now, in the middle of imperfection. This return is rich because it gives back what craving stole, the ability to inhabit your own life. You begin to notice that some of the most valuable things are quiet: a clear conscience, a forgiving heart, a disciplined mind, a soft word spoken at the right time, a meal eaten without hurry, a prayer that no one hears, a morning without resentment, a night without pretending, a friendship with no performance, a decision made from truth, a desire released before it became a chain. These things do not always look impressive, but they make the inner life spacious, and a spacious inner life is wealth. It means not every thought becomes a storm, not every desire becomes an order, not every absence becomes a wound, not every delay becomes rejection, not every ending becomes collapse. There is room inside you now. Room to breathe, room to choose, room to see, room to let life come and go without losing the deepest part of yourself. This is why wanting less can feel like becoming more alive. The senses become clearer. Gratitude becomes easier. Decisions become cleaner. Relationships become more honest. Rest becomes deeper. Work becomes more focused. Solitude becomes less frightening. Loss becomes less like destruction and more like change. Joy becomes less dependent on perfect conditions. You are not reducing life, you are reducing the suffering that covered life. A window does not become poorer when dust is wiped away. It becomes clearer. A room does not become poorer when clutter is removed. It becomes more open. A heart does not become poorer when unnecessary craving fades. It becomes more available to what is real. Wanting less is the clearing of inner clutter. It is removing what kept tripping the soul. It is making space for the kind of happiness that does not need constant feeding. This happiness is not always excitement. It is steadier than excitement. Excitement rises and falls quickly. It needs novelty. It needs stimulation. It needs the next thing. But the happiness of inner wealth is calmer. It can sit with ordinary days. It can survive silence. It can live inside simplicity. It can bow to change. It can remain present when life does not entertain it. This kind of happiness may seem humble, but it is strong. It does not collapse easily because it is not built only on conditions. It is nourished by the way you meet conditions. If pleasure comes, it enjoys. If discomfort comes, it learns. If praise comes, it smiles. If blame comes, it reflects. If gain comes, it gives thanks. If loss comes, it grieves without surrendering wisdom. This is the mind becoming wealthy in the deepest sense. Buddhism points to this wealth again and again. Not wealth as possession, but wealth as freedom from possession. Not wealth as having no problems, but wealth as having a mind that no longer creates extra suffering around every problem. Not wealth as being above life, but wealth as being fully present without being enslaved by every movement of life. And perhaps this is what the world needs most. Not more people who have everything and still feel empty, but more people who can touch enough and become generous from it. More people who can stand in simple moments and not despise them. More people who can want wisely, love cleanly, work sincerely, rest deeply, and release gracefully. More people who are not so easily controlled by craving. Because when you want less from illusion, you have more to give to truth. You have more patience for people, more attention for beauty, more energy for meaningful work, more compassion for suffering, more courage for change, more honesty in relationships, more gratitude for ordinary blessings, more freedom in your own mind. This is the paradox. The less you demand life to constantly feed your ego, the more nourished your spirit becomes. This is why wanting less is not the shrinking of the soul. It is the soul no longer being dragged by every hunger. It is the beginning of a wealth that does not need to announce itself. A wealth that can sit quietly, a wealth that can smile without winning, a wealth that can lose without hatred, a wealth that can love without control, a wealth that can live without turning every breath into a demand for more. And as this truth settles, you begin to understand that the lighter life is not empty. It is full of what craving made you too restless to see, full of breath, full of presence, full of small mercies, full of lessons, full of quiet strength, full of chances to begin again, full of enough. That is the beginning of inner wealth. Not when the world finally gives you everything, but when your heart becomes free enough to receive what has already been here. And now you understand what Buddhism was trying to show you all along. Wanting less is not losing life. It is losing the weight that made life feel so hard to carry. It is seeing the hunger beneath the hunger, noticing how desire hides inside ambition, how comfort becomes identity, how approval becomes a chain, and how the mind keeps upgrading the outside while quietly downgrading its peace. A lighter life does not mean you stop loving, dreaming, building, or enjoying. It means you stop being owned by every craving that knocks on the door of your mind. It means you no longer need everything to stay, everyone to approve, every comfort to remain, every goal to prove your worth, or every desire to be satisfied before you can breathe. This is the beginning of real inner wealth, the kind no loss can fully steal, the kind that lets you enjoy what comes, release what goes, and return again to the quiet truth that peace was never hiding in more. It was waiting beneath the need for more. If this message touched something deep in you, write in the comments, "I choose a lighter life." Let that be your quiet promise to stop carrying what was never meant to become your burden. And if you want more teachings that help you live with peace, wisdom, and a calmer heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your lighter life can begin with the next lesson.